Washington City Council chambers at City Hall. As we've started once again doing on the first quarter, on the first meeting of each quarter, we hold a public forum. So Council, at this time, I'm going to turn to you for a motion to approve the public forum agenda with the only item as comments from the public.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Henderson, a second by Councilman Belliston. All in favor?
Aye.
The public forum is approved. Before we get into business, I'd like to excuse Councilman Coates. He is on vacation with his family, and it will be my pleasure also to excuse Thad Segmiller, our city attorney, at about 4:45. Normally, we would love to have him here, but we also love beating Cedar City in Little League All-Stars, and he's the coach.
I want to go.
So it didn't take much persuading to allow him to leave just a little bit early. I'm just going to read the fine print, and then we'll get going with this public forum. I show so far we've got, it looks like 5 individuals on the list, and we will take anybody else who wants to add their name to the list for the next 10 minutes would be fine. But as we take comments from the public, I read this when we have a crowd that's going to make comments. This is an opportunity for the council to listen and consider public comments and feedback. After I open the public forum, I will call up to the podium Washington City residents who have signed up to speak. Please remember to state your name for the record and to address the mayor and council as such. Please make sure your comments are relevant, concise, and civil. Most well-spoken public comments can be made within about 2 to 3 minutes. Clapping or yelling after comments is not appropriate in a public meeting. Council, I ask that you listen and take notes during the public forum, and I will give you an opportunity to speak after I close the public forum. But mostly, I want to welcome you here. It is an honor for myself and for the rest of this council to represent a city that is doing so many great things, and we love this civic engagement. So those of you who are here to speak and here to listen, we value what you have to say, and this is absolutely your time. So I'm just going to go in order of the way that it was signed up. So first I will invite up forward Paul S. Crawford, a Washington City resident. Mr. Crawford, and I recognize you from, come on forward. I recognize you from you made comments at the Plan Commission meeting, which we all watched. So thank you for those comments and thank you for being here.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Paul Crawford. Grateful for the opportunity to stand before you and share some thoughts and feelings in conjunction with some of the events that have happened recently. As a resident in the area, I received a letter, and the letter indicated to me that there would be, let me get that letter so that I can read it here, that there would be a hearing on July 3rd. And in this public hearing, it was a recommendation of the City Council for a zone change request, Z2404, designating an overlay zone for a bar establishment. And that's singular, a bar establishment. We don't have the maps up, so I'm going to refer to the map that came in my mail, but it had some changes to it. And I'm going to point out one of the changes that's here. It says proposed overlay zone for bar establishments with a S there for the areas 10A, 10B, and 10D, okay? So we were a little surprised at this because we have talked in the past about these issues, and I'd just like to refer to the source of our information. As a resident, I was happy to move here and locate the Grapevine Crossing area that's in development. And my associate friend, Troy Belliston, and I talked about that over the past. So I'd like to quote from that website. It says, elevate your experience. Washington County is one of the most unique locations in the world. And goes on and mentions some things there to us. It also says Grapevine Crossing is a 93-acre development that will enhance the southern Utah experience with exceptional dining, shopping, and entertainment, surrounded by, quote, a family fun experience too perfect to resist, and assigned by the developer and owner. So when I looked at this, this map that was different than the one that came in the mail, I recognized that they're looking for zone establishment changes, and that's what the council will vote on. I want to cite a similar circumstance that occurred in the city of St. George. St. George reduced their number of bars allowed, reducing the number of permits from 4 to 2. And I quote from the website that they have there, the St. George City Council on Thursday have the number of standalone bars allowed in its historic downtown core, imposing a new cap on bar permits that is lower than the number of bars currently permitted to do business in the area. Council members at that meeting moved to reduce the number of permits available in its downtown arts district, currently only area in St. George where bar permits are available, from 4 to 2. The vote was unanimous. I think that's very significant. We've been looking at this issue, a family-friendly environment, and waiting for this to develop. And so when we look at the areas for bar establishments, these bar establishments, are commonly called taverns, are very different from restaurants that have a bar. And so we want to make sure that that distinction is clear, because there's still confusion in the community of what a restaurant is with a bar, and that they primarily serve food, whereas a bar establishment, which is what this change is requesting, will include facilities that have more alcohol than food. So every once in a while, we are confronted by a turning point requiring us to look a little deeper and take a firmer stand as a Washington City resident. And this is one of those opportunities for us. It brings out health, safety, and welfare to mind, and the well-being of our community. Restaurants with a bar can be family friendly, and provision is in place for these without an overlay zone. A tavern or taverns that sell more alcohol than food is not. Safe shopping areas and amenities to bring our families to will not follow the development of multiple tavern facilities. And I indicate again that there are 3 areas here, and we qualify with our 20,000 residents that are here, that we can develop multiple facilities. So that causes us a great deal of concern, approaching 2 or 3 from there. So there's no turning back once that goes. So this is why this is important for us to have the attention of the council. Thus completely changing the promises that were originally proposed for us in the Washington City development here at Grapevine as family friendly. If the zoning overlay is approved and up to 3 taverns are constructed, myself and the city council will have created the only adult entertainment district between Salt Lake City and Las Vegas. Now, this is not a new thing to our area. There's a website that I found that indicates from St. George City Council, earlier this year, they reduced the number of permits from 4 to 2. They have a picture of Zion Brewery Station, and they also refer to another one that's across the street. 2 of the 4 are in operation. And I quote from that website, the St. George City Council on Thursday have the number of standalone bars allowed in its historic downtown core, imposing a new cap on bar permits that is lower than the number of bars currently permitted to do business in the area. Council members at the January meeting moved to reduce the number of permits available to its downtown arts district, currently the only area in St. George where bar permits are available, from 4 to 2. The vote was unanimous. And that's encouraging to me. But we see that this is not just unique to our area, that we're hoping to develop this area family-friendly, and that we have the residential capacity to have 1 or 2 or 3, perhaps, once that's approved. That becomes a great concern to us. So health and safety and welfare and the well-being of our community is on our mind. And I mentioned starting with 1 per 20,000, and we're currently at 36,000 in residents, so we're very close to qualifying for 2 and 3. And so we're seeing, if I were to take my family up to this area, we look at the map, I could see how large that region is to open up those 2 taverns. And we're not talking about restaurants that have a bar, we're talking about taverns now that primarily serve alcohol. Some of my associates will refer to some of those statistics, age groups and the concerns, and also the impact it has on our police and fire services when complaints are registered.
Mayor, can I interject with my nerd glasses?
Go ahead.
What's that?
I just want to interject with my attorney nerd glasses.
Mine are actually readers, and they're new to me this year.
Those aren't nerdy either.
Oh, no. The way I wear them, I think, is a little
You're
nerdy. Go
using
ahead,
the
Pat.
word tavern a lot, and you're trying to make that a focus of your presentation.
Actually, I'm
Stop,
fine.
let me speak.
Go ahead.
Washington City Code says on and after July 1st, 1994, the city shall not issue any new tavern licenses. And so I just want to make you and the public and the council aware that tavern in state law is a on-premise beer retailer. In other words, where you can go drink beer on site. Those aren't allowed in here in this city since 1994. And so I just want to make sure that distinction is known.
To clarify that, then what is this that we're looking at? Well, are we looking at restaurants with a bar? Is that the request? Because it seems very clear to me that we're looking at
You're looking at a zone change
zone
application.
count that allows for bar primarily that has more than 50% of their sales in alcohol.
Correct. You're looking at a zone change application that would take Washington City's population-based quota system for bar establishments and create a zone where the quota is not the limiting factor on what can be there. And the Washington City Council passed a code that limits that zone to a certain number. That's what you're looking at.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We've got about 15 more minutes left. Do you have a few more points, and then we'll let the other 4 get on?
If the zoning overlay is approved and up to 3 taverns are constructed, you and the city council will have created the only adult entertainment district between Salt Lake City and Las Vegas. Collectively, that will be our legacy. I would not like an adult entertainment district replacing a family-friendly area to be part of my legacy without expressing my feelings here. We seek a family-friendly development, as we do in our own neighborhoods, to safeguard and promote the development of the Grapevine Crossing as was originally promised. We stand opposed to zoning to allow bar facilities, which I refer to as taverns, but we'll go ahead and use, that primarily serve alcohol over food and not confuse the support and welcoming for family-friendly restaurants, like, for example, the Longhorn Steakhouse that also has a bar as well. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul, for your thoughtful comments and the insights that you shared. We appreciate that. We have 3 additional individuals who would like to speak to an item that was at Planning Commission last week, which is in regards to an application for a bar overlay zone that is also on the agenda this evening for our regular meeting. So in order of those that signed up, we've got about 15 minutes left for our public comment, our public forum. I'd like to invite Mr. David Clement to come forward and make comments. Thank you for being here, Mr. Clement. And just kind of pull that mic right close to where we can hear you well. Pull that mic down just a little. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Great, yes.
Okay. First of all, Mayor Staley, councilman members Casperson, Coates, Henderson, and Ivy. Belliston behind me. Still want to recognize you. First of all, I want to tell you that I appreciate the time for me to stand before you and voice my opposition to this zone change. I'm a little disappointed that we don't have the map up on the screens like we had on the Planning Commission, because I wanted to point out that there's a little niche in that map where my home is absolutely the closest to this zone change of anyone in Washington City.
And we watched the planning commission because we view those comments, and I remember you saying that in your comments then,
Yeah.
and I saw the little point on those
That little
maps.
pointed arrow right on the side.
Yes.
I didn't realize
That's a
that.
point well taken, by the way.
I did not see that until I saw it on the map up there. I'd like to address my comments maybe a little bit differently than just to objection to the bars themselves. As our elected representatives, it's incumbent upon you to work for the health, safety, and the welfare of the citizenry. And in your July newsletter, which just came out, you pointed out that the careful planning for a prosperous future is absolutely necessary. And that you said Washington's future hinges upon the orchestration and execution of a general plan. And the city's general plan serves as the guiding beacon, charting the course for the city's development while preserving its unique heritage and identity. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with it, maybe behind me, I know all of you are, that Washington City, in fact, does have a general plan. It's available on the website. You can look at it. You can see it. And I'd like to just point a couple of things out that are stated in there. First of all, the development in your responsibility is the development of the city in such a way that it does not place incompatible lands next to each other. And I find that the bar establishments that would feed directly into family residential and rental units on public roads would be highly incompatible. Two, the document states that you will not place undue financial burdens on the city or a particular neighborhood. I find that increased activity, unlawful activities and accidents that unfortunately are associated with bars, that this would place new financial burdens on our neighborhoods and certainly would place new financial burdens on our law enforcement agencies. The developer's original plan, number three, in the general plan, it says that there is a reflection of the community's values and what it wants to look like. And the developer's original plan called for exceptional dining, shopping, and entertainment surrounded by family fun experience. Now that fits what we want to look like. Bars do not. The general plan also says the general plan says that the decisions that you make will impact the shape of the community and the residents' quality of life. In my opinion, there is a large majority of those living and renting in the Sienna Hills area that would feel their quality of life would be negatively impacted by bars in the development that we're speaking about. You recently, Mayor, addressed a affordable housing unit. And in your closing remarks, there were some remarks that I think applies very, very much to what we're doing here. These are your words exactly. We all have a critical role to play in getting there. And if we don't work together to do this, we risk becoming a community of primarily investors, vacation landlords, which perhaps means short-term gains, but long-term could be a major loss for the value of the community as a whole. Collaborating with respect and honesty is the approach that we should take here. I would respectfully ask for your consideration on the wants and the needs and the desires of the community and vote nay on this approval of this action. In doing so, I think you will find that you will have been serving the health, the safety, and the welfare of those who have placed you in your positions. Thank you very much for your time.
Very well spoken. Thank you, David. Next, I'd like to invite Emily Phillips to come forward and address the council. It's good to see you tonight, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you. As stated, my name is Emily Phillips. I am a Washington City resident. I want to thank you, Mayor Staley and council members, for your quick replies. All of you reached right back out to me when I did have questions. I also appreciate the opportunity to share my findings as I research this overlay, and it's definitely a privilege to be here with you elected officials tonight, so thank you for your time. You're very familiar with the state code requirements for a bar establishment. So instead of reiterating that, first I want to ask ourselves the basic question that all of us citizens are asking about this overlay request specifically. Why is it needed? And who says it's needed? Okay, the requested overlay is incredibly vague in my opinion. It gives way too much power to the developer and the applicant, Troy Belliston. We essentially would be giving approval for anything from the biker bar, sports bar, wine and charcuterie. We're opening up that opportunity for any of them to apply to open in Grapevine Crossing. Any of those that have less than 70% of their sales from food can apply. A chain restaurant that serves alcohol would not need to fall under that overlay, and it would be a very welcome establishment in that project. Currently, there's not even a known applicant that wants to be there. This overlay as proposed is essentially a 40-acre open invitation for a bar to come and open. In my opinion, it's not paving the way for possibilities as the applicant is trying to portray, but it's setting us up. I believe specifics in what bar establishment wants to come would be vital to the success of any high-end bar establishment, and it could potentially negate the risks associated with any standalone bar. On that note, my recommendation would be for the applicant to wait for those 4,000 more residents and then apply for the one specific bar that we can see it as a 50-50 food to alcohol ratio, such as the wine and charcuterie establishment, that then meets the state code that exists, which is one bar per 20,000 residents. In this instance, that would be 2 bars per 40,000 residents. As my last thought to share tonight, let me tell you what I found in my research that definitely made me pause. The state of Utah has 4.71 bars per capita, which is 100,000 people. Approving this overlay could then put Washington City with the enormous number of up to 4 bars per only the 36,000 residents we have. That's larger than even New York State. They have 17.4 per capita of 100,000 people. It would also put us about 6 above the average, the state average with those entitlements. So council members and Mayor Staley, why would Washington want the highest number of bars in the entire state? And how does it benefit our citizens' health, their safety, and their welfare? Washington City has always promoted kids. We have an amazing community center. We have ball fields. We have city recreation leagues. Let's not see this shift as an option with up to 3 bar establishments off exit 13 in 40 acres. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Emily. You made some excellent points. Next, I'd like to invite Kristen Wetzel to come forward. Thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Wetzel.
Hi, my name is Kristen Wetzel, a proud resident of Washington City. I'm a real estate broker by trade, president of a large HOA, and a delegate elected by our community. So I come not just as a citizen, but as one trusted by the community and uniquely skilled to speak on the subject that is representing my community. A vote for this proposal is not infringing on one's right to drink, but a yes vote is infringing on the rights of citizens' wishes for peace and safety in their community. Let's begin by looking at St. George and Hurricane. St. George has increased crime since created their downtown bar scene. DUIs in Washington County have increased from 306 to 463 offenses just in 1 year alone. The St. George Police Department liquor law violations in 2020 went from 178 to 252. Including serving alcohol to minors, alcohol after hours, occupancy violations, health and safety violations, noise, drug activity, indecent entertainment, and nuisance complaints. Disorderly conduct jumped from 89 to 123 offenses. Curfew, loitering, vagrancy went from 80 to 108. You can't tell us that a bar establishment is good for any community. You cannot tell me that the citizens of St. George were better off for having these bars in the community, and certainly we are not either. Let's learn from St. George and our neighboring cities. I invite you to talk to the police chief of Hurricane and ask him how well the Eagle Bar in Laverican is doing for them. He describes it as nothing short of a cesspool. It has been so bad for the city and its residents, creating so many ancillary problems and draining financial resources. If there is a demand for alcohol, there's places for them to go. If there's a demand for alcohol currently, the state is looking for a place that they can have a liquor establishment in the city. It's a much safer way to consume alcohol. Statistically, people that have a bar in their immediate neighborhood have a much higher incidence of drinking and all of the things that go with this. 51% of people 21 to 26 are going to the bar at least once a week. Look at the population that we have, particularly off exit 13, and what do you see? Townhomes, apartments, fits right into that. It goes down to 42% of millennials, 24% of Gen X, and 19% of boomers that say they go to the bar once a week. A study done by the DOJ had significant relationships between having a standalone bar and assaults. Our police are now set up and paid by the general fund. Increasing a bar is going to increase the need for more police and first responders, taking them from other places, and that is not something that we as a city need. I want to also discuss the conflict of interest that I see in the applicant of Troy Belliston. How many times has he had to recuse himself, and when are you no longer serving the citizens but yourself? You're elected to serve the better of the community and not to look at your own projects. This city is not better for having a standalone bar. We do not have a problem with a bar with a restaurant, and we welcome that in our city. We are now trying to cater to out-of-town people that are temporary living, but they do not have to deal with all of the things that come when you are a citizen that lives here permanently. A bar has no benefit to any community ever. As the elected leaders, I encourage you to vote no on this. The city of Washington is a crown jewel. It's the first thing that you come to when you come over and drop into the city. Exit 13 can be a crown jewel for our city. If we develop that right and have it a place that caters to families, not out-of-town visitors, people that are coming here are looking for safety. They're looking to escape all of the things that they're having to deal with in their own cities. That is why Washington is a place that I choose to live. I ask you each to look at protecting our citizens and our way of life and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Kristen, really appreciate all of your comments. We have one more resident who would like to make some comments during this open public forum. I'd like to invite Mr. John Olson to come forward. He would like to talk about development. Mr. Olson.
Council, Mayor, thanks for this opportunity. As a resident who was born and raised in this city, we had a community, one community. Washington was our community. We didn't have the Fields as a community. We didn't have Sienna Hills. We didn't have Buena Vista as a community. We had a community. I left here in 1990, worked for the government, federal law enforcement. When I came back, this is not my community anymore. All the places, Councilman Henderson, Mayor, Councilman Ivey, that we used to romp and stomp as kids are now houses. So this development that is going in is not for the betterment for my quality of life. It's taking away from my quality of life. But I also believe that if a developer comes into our community and wants to develop, and they follow state law, they follow city code and zoning, they should be able to develop that property to the best of their ability, to the betterment of our community. communities that are outside that feel that they are not part of Washington should not dictate. They got what they wanted. And now they don't want another developer to get what they want. As long as it is state, follow the zoning, follow the ordinances. This particular topic that we're talking about, there's not an establishment that wants to come in. It just opens the possibility. And the council and the mayor and the state have final say on what comes in there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this public forum. At this time, council, is there anything that you'd like to address or staff that you'd like to address before I call for a motion to close the public forum and move into the workshop meeting? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to close the public forum.
So moved, Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Casperson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
The public forum is officially closed. We'll now move into our workshop meeting. Council, you have the agenda before you. If there's no discussion on that agenda, I'll call for a motion to approve the workshop.
Move, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Ivy.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We're going to start off. I'll invite Mr. Tage Flint. He is the Executive Director of Utah Waterways to come forward. He is also the former manager of the Weber Basin Water District. I've asked him to bring the council and the community up to speed on some of the items that he's working on a state level. And I told him when I walked in that he's my favorite part-time resident. He's also a part-time resident of our fine city. Mr. Flint, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a slideshow that was sent in advance.
It's up.
Thank you. If I could just look up, I'd see it. Right? Thank you, Mayor, for the welcome. And yes, I am a proud part-time resident of Washington City, and a fine city it is. I can tell you, from all my experience with many municipalities in the state, this one's well run, and congratulations for that. I here in capacity as the Executive Director of Utah Waterways, let me tell you quickly what that is. Utah Waterways was instructed to be created by the state legislature just a year and a half ago. And the idea of trying to collaborate and try to bring together all the messaging you hear about water conservation in this state. And I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here in terms of what this city has done for water conservation already, and how progressive you've been in looking out for your water supplies. No one knows how precious water supplies is more than Southwest Utah. I can tell you that across the state. And so congratulations on what you've done. We are established as a nonprofit, and we're established with funding coming from the state legislature on an annual basis, as well as corporate and private entities contributing to that as well. And I'll go through a few slides here and show you how to do that. Is that what this is? There we go. So the idea of the new legislation is to advance the efficient use of water in Utah. I think the word advance is key here, in that we ought to and should give credit to Utahns already for doing a lot. Across the state, we're looking at about 20 to 23% reduction in per capita use since 2020. So in the last 24 years, we all use less water than we did once upon a time. And so credit given. However, as usual with natural resources, we're always looking to be able to do better. This particular agency is going to build public and private partnerships. You can see the list there of those that are already on board with us in helping us with funding and helping us with personnel and ideas. As we go forward, hope to expand this list. Though the alphabet soup on the lower right there are the conservancy districts in this state. As the mayor mentioned, I used to manage one of those, but I can tell you that those water conservancy districts, including yours, Washington County Water Conservancy District, is absolutely all in on trying to reduce per capita use in our areas. And I can tell you in this area, it's absolutely critical. What's important here, though, is we're having conversations with Intermountain Health, with Larry H. Miller Companies, with Rio Tinto and Zions Bank and others to do better and get ideas and collaborate with the private sector. That's something that has not been done largely in the state. By code, we'll start encouraging effective state and local policies. The first example of that was this year, HB 11. Those are House Bill numbers, House Bills 11, House Bill 62. One of them pertains to now, for the first time in northern Utah, in the Great Salt Lake Basin, prohibiting public buildings from having non-functional turf any longer. It's not that we're trashing the turf industry. What we're saying is that generally we overwater turf, and it takes a lot of our landscape, a lot of our water. And keep in mind, when we talk about water savings, we talk about landscapes a lot, and that's largely because somewhere around 2/3 still of all the water that we consume for our home is used outside, 2/3. And down in this area, it's over about an 8-month period. In northern Utah, it's in the 6-month period. We're using 2/3 of all our water supply on our landscapes. House Bill 62 was a bill that encourages now Utah Waterways, our organization, to help build a new curriculum for K through 12 schools throughout the state of Utah that talks about the water cycle, talks about the importance of water and how it gets here, the infrastructure that's attached to that, and how we can be responsible with its use. I hope all of you have heard of Slow the Flow by now. It's a 24-year-old program. We've had.
It's finally sinking in, Tage.
Okay, very good. It is actually one of the most recognized public brands out there. That program is going to be turned over to our organization to retool, if you will, reinvent as we go forward. I know that my kids don't get their information from commercials during Channel 5's 10 o'clock newscast. I don't even think they know there is a Channel 5 newscast. We are going to push these messages statewide through whole new routes, certainly websites, but social media and many other avenues that you haven't seen before. So watch for a new and exciting Slow the Flow program coming up. Probably we'll keep the name because it's so recognizable. We're going to engage our stakeholders across the board. That includes cities such as yours. We'll be back, by the way, to learn from you what you've already done and what your experience has been, and then, as importantly, what your staff's experience has been in some of the ordinances you have in place and their and how best to make sure that they're being done. We are going to change the messaging, hopefully. We're going to talk about, in our case, we're going to talk about saving water. We're not going to talk about so much where that saved water goes. That's for those water agencies, and that's for cities to decide. What we want to do is drive that per capita use down. We'll leave the others to do with what the saved water amounts to. That way, we can just talk about water conservation.
Would you mind if I just interject there?
Absolutely.
And I think I know what you're referring to in southern Utah. Collectively, what we're working towards is a regional reuse system, whereas in northern Utah they have different needs with their water flows and their watershed. So I think that's wise to educate and let the local parts of the state manage their what they do with the water.
Absolutely. You know better than those that are trying to promote water conservation as to what to do with the savings. And that's a great example down here, Mayor. Up north, should that saved water go to the Great Salt Lake, or should it go to the next component of growth, our kids and grandkids, or should it go to both? Those are decisions to be made by others. Here's an important message that's going to be difficult, frankly. And it's our fault, me being one of those who is at fault here as a water manager in my past life. We've conditioned our public to know what kind of hydrologic water year we're having. Is it a good snow year? Is it a bad snow year? Is it a reservoir's going to be, are they going to fill this year or not fill this year? And what we've seen is an immediate response from the public as to how much water they use based on what we tell them. If it's been a high water year, the reservoirs all full, you can see our per capita use start to climb. What would really be nice if we got that conversation out and started to be responsible for our water use regardless of the hydrologic year, so that the reservoirs have more water in them going into the fall and we can fill them easier the next year. So it's a shift, and again, it's going to be difficult, but that's our goal. We want to be a clearinghouse. Doesn't matter where you live in the state, whether you live in Washington City, Logan, or Moab, you should be able to come to our locations online and be able to find out what you're eligible for in terms of incentive programs or whatever else water conservation has to offer. And we're going to help our communities. We're going to help our communities become like Washington City in their applications of ordinances and how to best use their water supplies. And I don't know, maybe you wouldn't be surprised to know that many cities, certainly the rural cities, but many even of the urban cities are not far enough along on their ordinances and other things, and we need to provide them the necessary materials. We're going to partner with the Utah League of Cities and Towns on what we call the H2O Collective, and we want to be able to create more meaningful ordinances. And here's the reality. I've been around long enough to know that just to pass ordinance is not enough. And then what that becomes is a burden on your staff, becomes a burden on your water department. And what we need is to help you with a comprehensive structure of what an ordinance means. So it's followed up by complementing water rate structure, so that the water rates complement the ordinance, so you're saving more water and frankly charging more to those that use more. We want to be able to talk to our cities about development agreements. At the end of the day, development agreements is what drives what landscapes look like in large areas. Here's the good news. This is not a bad thing. Development agreements can be very, very helpful, because you as a city can help define what that entire development landscape is going to look like without dealing with each individual homeowner along the way. What we'd like to do is we're already starting to meet with our developer and homeowner or home builder community to come up with something that works for both parties. And then we want to be able to provide a companion to the city staff as to how you enforce compliance of what you've already passed. That's very difficult to do. We want to be able to streamline that from the start. Complete re-landscaping experience. Look for us next spring. We're starting production on these next month, where we'll come in, and your community is one of them, across the state, where we will design, construct, and finish and install a re-landscaping of a home somewhere in your community. And we will highly produce that. The kind of, think of This Old House or something like that, where we use those as educational materials for folks who really do want to change their landscape but don't know how to start doing that and how to get it done. We're vetting contractors, designers, plant material suppliers, and homeowners in this process, and we'll be in Southern Utah as well to do one of these. And after all the talk that we've had about water conservation over the years, we've never done this. We've never started with the existing landscape and produced it from start to finish.
A makeover.
A whole makeover. And with the promise to come back in 2, 3, and 4 years after that to see what it looks like and see how we maintain it. Mm-hmm. I mentioned the K through 12 curriculum. We'll be working with the state school board as instructed by the state legislature. And you can see there that we're going to talk about conservation, obviously. We're going to talk about the water cycle so we understand how it is water drops out of the sky and how that works. And then what's largely unknown by our public is what incredible infrastructure is required to get water to your tap. It's largely underground, out of sight, out of mind infrastructure. It's not I-15. You can see that every day. But there's stuff under the ground that you can't believe that our children would be very interested in.
Hundreds of thousands of miles of pipe and water tanks and pumps and reservoirs. This is good information, especially for our youth.
Exactly. And maybe we can inspire a few of them to be our future engineers in the whole process too, because we nerds are getting older. We need some
Oh, I see the initials. I didn't realize you're grouping yourself into that nerdy category. Okay.
Exactly. A lot of times I give my kids the option to tell their friends that I'm an engineer and a math major or not. They get the option. That's all I had on formal presentation. Love to entertain any questions you might have or any input you might have for us as a city, as we talk to the many cities in the state.
Council, you're all familiar with this. Shoot.
I just appreciate you being here tonight. I've been appreciated getting to know you at State Water School, and we look forward to it again next year. As I was invited back, so I must not have offended too many people.
He went from, I think, pupil to instructor, is that, or at least panel member, is that?
Very, very few have made that jump.
Just opinionated council member, that's all. But no, we appreciate your work on this, and we followed that legislation closely. We understand that it's all about partnerships, and being in the southwest part of the state, we understand those partnerships are really, really important to us, that we have the whole state understand that we're different down here. We have different needs, and it all takes money. I've often said, I don't know if you agree or not, I said, we don't have a water problem, we have a funding problem. We can make it happen. We live in a technological age. But no, Mayor, I just wanted to share my appreciation. He's a great partner and a good friend to the city and to all of our collective interests in securing water for our future.
Thanks.
Well said.
Appreciate it.
Councilman Henderson.
Mayor, I just had a little confession to make. So the mayor has turned me into somewhat of a water nerd. So much so that sometimes when Rachel and I drive around town, we point out non-functional turf to each other. So it's pretty bad. So
It's working.
Anyway, just saying. Yeah.
I bet you're great in parties with that kind of
Oh,
information.
yeah.
You might sound like an engineer if you're not careful. Any additional comments? Councilman Belliston, Councilman Casperson, any thoughts?
I don't want to admit I'm a nerd tonight, so I'll just let Henderson take that one. But thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Mayor, if I may, I've featured the mayor on at least two panels now at this point because he's passionate about this topic and he knows it. He knows it well. And I can tell all of you do as well. Again, preaching to the choir, we very much appreciate cities who lead out. We usually use an example all the time. And it's not to say that we won't be back and ask for more when we get things to stage 2, if you will. But thanks for being an example. Thanks for leading out on this. And we hope to be able to bring folks this way to understand exactly how it's done. There's nothing produces a public movement, if you will, like scarcity. And you're very much the part of the state that's going to experience scarcity first if you don't do these things. And it's good to see you step up and be responsible for it. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Flint. We remain a willing partner, and you don't need to stay here any longer. You've been to your fair share of meetings. So if you have a better place to be while you're at your second home, we're happy to excuse you.
Thank you very much. I'll stick for a minute and then I'll head out.
Sounds good.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you. All right. The next item on the agenda is, it's not technically a continuation, but it's within the realm of a continuing discussion that we are having in regards to City Code Title IX, modifying regulations. City Planner Eldon Gibb, if you'll come forward, and you've got about 10 to 15 minutes on this. Bring us up to speed on some of the other angles that you're taking on attainable housing, and then we'll leave the last 30 minutes for a discussion in regards to code enforcement. And Rick, we've also put the power capita facilities plan on the regular meeting, so plan on going at the end of the regular meeting. Eldon.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, good to be here. This is a continued discussion here, honed in on the awnings portion of the code. We've got two parts, the detached structures and then the attached shade structures as well. You can see this box here. This was a recommendation given by the Planning Commission when Stewart Awnings submitted their code change last year, which came before you as well. I took their recommendation, threw it in this chart here, and am looking for recommendations from the council if we want to move this forward or how we would like to proceed. Before we start discussion, I can briefly overview this here. We've broken the zones up into 3 boxes, the R16 and R18. will allow a coverage up to 50%. Stepping down to the R110, it then steps down 10% and would allow a 40% coverage. And then the R112 and greater would be a 30% coverage of the rear yard.
Would you just explain as a refresher and for the audience what our current code allows? I believe it's 30% across the board.
It is, yeah, which we're not asking to change. That 30% requirement is staying. What changes is when we throw on the shade structures, is when we're allowing an increase to happen.
So with the increase of ADUs, that kind of affected when you have ADUs and shade, and that's what kind of prompted this conversation, if I remember right.
This discussion came forth from Stuart Awning's submission of wanting to increase the amount that could be covered with shade.
But as people wanted to build more ADUs, accessory dwelling, and of course, I don't know, Mayor, if this was planned or not, but we're talking about shade on the one of the hottest days in the history of southern Utah, so it might be a good time to have that discussion. But I remember the conversation, and I think that it makes sense to me thus far.
Councilman Henderson, you've been a part of that planning commission oversight. What's your feedback on this?
So I'm okay with this. This seems to be moving us more in the direction of what the awning companies are kind of looking for, and I'm in favor of that. So I don't have a problem with it at all. So I appreciate your work on this. So,
Councilman Belliston, Councilwoman Casperson, any thoughts on this?
I'm just wondering, where did the number, just the planning commission came up with these numbers and that's what you put in here? And do you know how they came to these numbers and what the percentage is?
The specifics of how they came to that, I can't remember. Drew, I think he may even be gone on that meeting. I think they just felt good about these numbers. The smaller lots have smaller backyards, and less area to cover, which is why it's the most, and then reduced as you get down to the larger sizes.
Eldon, let's just to jump in here on this, start from what does this change from what we allow now? I know this is a work session, so this is our kind of first time taking a bite at this, but just for all of our benefit, what does this change from what we allow now to what's been recommended that at some point we consider as a change to our ordinance?
So currently we allow 30% of the rear yard to be covered.
With a shade structure.
With a shade structure, accessory dwelling unit, garages.
So this allows for more depending on if you have a 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 or greater size lot. It allows for a greater percentage of your lot or yard size. Which is it, lot or yard size?
It's the lot, it's based off
of the
zone.
lot size to be used for either shade or accessory dwelling unit coverage. Is that right?
Yeah, so that top box, R16 and R18, we're proposing a 20% increase for the accessory or the shade structures.
What other questions do you have, Councilwoman Casperson, or thoughts?
So essentially, this is also, someone could have, accessory that they if they wanted to rent out a building, and then this would allow them also to have more of a shade structure. So it just basically giving them more ability to have that space to be able to, have coverage for their backyard. Flexibility.
Correct, yeah, more shade. We're not addressing detached garages or sheds or ADUs, just allowing them more area to cover with shade.
Councilman Bellison.
Well, I'm a little late to the party since this got started, a year ago or so, right? But we're still maintaining setbacks though, correct? 3 or 5 foot, whatever the case may be.
Correct, yeah. they encroach into the 3 foot, needs to be fire rated material. There's some criteria
Well,
that we're not
I
asking.
mean, I know, when it's a dwelling or an accessory unit or a structure, we'll maintain that, but when it comes to the shade structure, I guess the question in that sense is, if they build it right up the property line and it's got slope, then now you're putting drainage on your neighbor and whatnot. So at least if it's inside, then you'll be maintaining your own water. I don't have an issue with it,
Yeah, those are great questions. You can't build a shade structure right up to your property line. It needs to maintain setback for that water distribution.
Eldon, I'm hearing from the council that they generally agree with Planning Commission. So I think you have a green light to keep moving forward with that and bringing it through the process. There's more to your presentation tonight, though. Was there another item?
Not that I'm aware of.
Just this one, is this it?
This is it. If
Okay.
you want me to discuss more, I'm happy to discuss.
It seemed like there was more to it. There wasn't a second page.
It incorporates this same box.
Okay.
So it's just a different section in the code. It would be this exact same tier structure applied to the specific accessory shade structures.
Okay.
So, correct, yes, there is a separate page to this if we can get into that too. It's the same tiered structure.
Okay. Okay. Any feedback? Thank you.
It's good work.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the workshop agenda is in regards to code enforcement. Appreciate Councilman Ivy coordinating with staff on some of these issues that he's seen throughout the community and coordinating with Police Chief. I've asked City Manager Jeremy Redd to present on this and then to facilitate council discussion so that the appropriate city departments can have feedback and direction from the council. And I see both the Community Development Director and Police Chief here, which I think are all ears and available to come speak as well. Jeremy.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. And I appreciate Eldon being quick. We might get to some power discussion at some point anyway, but I wanted to bring up a little bit of discussion about code enforcement. It's starting to become a little bit more of an issue. We're starting to see more and more emails and more people interested. So I want to facilitate a discussion to make sure that we are heading down a road that the council's happy with, and we'll talk about that as we go forward. Just some stats for our current code enforcement. We are handling about 100+ cases per month. So those cases are coming in a variety of ways. They come from dispatch, so people call in code enforcement issues. They come from citizens who call the police department directly. They come from our code enforcement, our other officers, or even city employees.
Can you say can you say some that might come in? What are some of these issues, like typical calls, typical complaint?
Today we had a call about a political sign that somebody didn't like, that they thought was not appropriate. We have weed calls. We have, my neighbor's parking in front of my house. We have, really runs the gamut of things. And so a lot of these, and you see it with the council emails that you get, a lot of these are really, we can accept the information and kind of help people understand what the code is, and then they're educated. And so not all of those take a lot of our time. Sometimes it's just to help educate people. Of the 100+ issues that come in, 12 to 15 of those require follow-up from our code enforcement officers. So it's not a massive problem, but it does take a lot of our staff time as well. The other things, we get emails from citizens, we get planning and zoning that identify issues. Those are things like, if we saw somebody had built too much shade in their backyard, or they built a shed without a permit or something like that, those issues are identified. So right now, our code enforcement process, and this is really codified, and so if we want to do something different, this is what the city council has determined we do. We first try to speak with the property owner or contact the property owner if possible, and we're taking a fairly soft approach with people as opposed to a really difficult code enforcement stance. We look for voluntary compliance, and the first step in our code always talks about trying to obtain voluntary compliance. That's in 537. So one of the things that you see is that people will call in a code enforcement issue, and then they expect that will immediately be fixed. I called it in, It's been 3 days, why hasn't it happened? And this is why it hasn't happened, because our first step is always to try to get voluntary compliance. And often that's an abatement letter, or code enforcement might knock on the door, but maybe they can't get somebody. But even if they talk to somebody, they'll give them 21 days usually to fix the issue. So they'll say, these weeds are a fire hazard. If they're not something that's endangering a structure, they might get 21 days to clean that yard up. And, if people are given time, they usually take all the time you give them before they get on the issue. They can extend that based on circumstances. So somebody comes and says, I can get in compliance, but I can't do it within 21 days. I need another week or two. They'll really try to work with people to give them time. And then if we don't get that voluntary compliance, despite all of our best efforts, then the last step is a citation or a ticket, or refer them to the court, depending on what that particular code is that they're breaking. And we do about 20 to 30 maximum citations and court referrals per year. So that's what's happening right now. I would say if there's something that's coming up right now, it's Title 5.3 that's nuisance. I think if it's a pretty obvious code violation, it's not a problem. But what we're starting to see is that residents are calling us more and more with these nuisance items. I don't like this thing that my neighbor's doing. This dog is barking. This it's junky. It just doesn't look good. Their yard isn't being well taken care of. Those type of issues. And right now, our nuisance ordinance, and again, this is by code, is identified in 3 different ways. Number one, identified by the complaint of 3 or more people. So we expect that if 3 people will make a formal complaint, that is enough to cause a nuisance. You've got to be neighbors that are somewhat close, but that doesn't happen very often. Usually neighbors are a little hesitant to complain against their neighbors. The second is it annoys, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, or safety of others. And you heard some of that language tonight in the discussion that we had earlier. Pretty tough sometimes to determine what annoys me might not annoy you. What is really the comfort of somebody, and how does that impacted by a neighbor? And then we have a list of 34 specific identified nuisances that don't need complaints, and they're pretty obvious things that go on that list, and we could look at that if that's important. So really the discussion I wanted to have, we're starting to see people more and more want to identify problems, but they don't necessarily want to make a complaint. They just are in a lot of ways asking for the city to be more proactive about finding nuisances, looking for nuisances, and the real discussion I guess I want to have tonight is how proactive does the city want to be in that? And it does change depending on where you're at. If you're in an HOA, often we have an HOA president here tonight, often the HOA will be more proactive than the city will be. And they have that private contract that they have signed that allows them to be a little more proactive than maybe the city can. But a lot of our areas are still not covered by HOAs. So I guess that's my tee up for discussion. I hope we can have a robust discussion about where you want to go. Are we doing it the way you want? And if we are, maybe part of this is helping to educate residents that there's a reason why it takes a little bit of time to run through some of these issues.
Thank you, Jeremy. Council, I'm happy to see this discussion take place. Councilman Ivey?
So yes, Mayor, thank you. Appreciate that, Jeremy. That's a good synopsis of where we're at. So the conversation has been going on for some time with me. Part of my responsibilities on the council is I work with public safety, with police and fire. I do ride-alongs every month. And then we have meetings with the chief and our city manager just to try to keep track and keep up with things that are going on and trying to stay ahead, actually. But I started recognizing a reoccurring theme in my ride-alongs for some time now. I do code enforcement ride-alongs, I think 4 times now since I've been in that assignment. And we discuss about not only with the code enforcement officers or even the fire department or with the chiefs, but a lot of the times what we're talking about are not the nuisance complaints, but egregious, very serious things. And we've talked about them in council, and I'm not going to be specific from the pulpit, but we have one situation where there's a container box that has been made into an apartment hooked up to existing sewer, water, power, and no permitting. And that's one thing that's been ongoing. We have an actual fully functional industrial operation in a residential area that is been ongoing. And we have, and I'm not going to be specific, but we have other concerns. One of the things that we've talked about also is, seeing that we do have an HOA president here, we have some concerns with HOAs that sometimes are not representing their founding documents and state code the way they should. And so working with Representative Walters right now on a bill that would maybe create an ombudsman at the state office to deal with HOA complaints and concerns where they're trying to find resolution and not end up in court. But the one thing, Council, that I did want to mention is that some time ago we voted on what we called a camping ordinance. Like if you have a visitor come into town and they have a trailer or a camper and they pull it beside of your house, what does that look like? Because we feel like that, when you have in-laws that maybe have a trailer, I don't know if in-laws is a great example, but you have friends or relatives that are there that want to stay with you for a certain amount of time, then we don't want to negatively impact that. They should be able to stay there and visit for a while. I think the problem has come in what we voted on in that ordinance is that it had what I consider to be a negative implication in that it actually has validated some of these other camping situations around the city that have obviously there's no intentions of moving, that it's a permanent situation where one mobile home or travel trailer had actual wooden steps built so they could get in and out of it. So what I would suggest maybe at some point, staff, mayor, however you want to address this, but maybe looking at adding a day limit to the camping ordinance, just so that we have a baseline to go from, so that when we have a complaint about somebody that is living out of a trailer, that we don't want to impose on our family staying with us or that, but it's kind of gotten into an area that's caused real problems for our code enforcement officers. And there's one very specific case out on Washington Dam Road, and I'm not going to be specific with the name, but that's been identified to me on probably 6 or 7 different occasions by police and fire in separate conversations that there's just ongoing camping there, that this kind of plays into that. So at some point, I think adding a timeline, maybe it's 30 days, 60 days, whatever the council agrees to, but I think there needs to be an end date on camping at a residence within a trailer type situation. But Mayor, really the question tonight is, and I'm breezing over this because I want to give the council plenty of time to discuss it, but the question that I have tonight for the council is, what direction do we want to go? It's my experience and my feeling that we always want to be very, very, very considerate of our citizens. That if they have a code enforcement issue, we need to extend every courtesy, everything we can do to help them to be in compliance or to recognize anything that we can do to help in that effort. But I do think that we're at a time in our history where we need a more proactive code enforcement for the benefit of many people that are moving here. And, I think probably it needs to be primarily complaint driven. I don't like the idea of neighbors calling and telling on others, but yet, honestly, that kind of what needs to happen sometimes when people's lives are being negatively impacted. So primarily complaint driven, but with that, we need to have a clear process that we know who the complaint goes to, whether it's public works or community development or code enforcement. We need to detail what those are and where it goes so it can be a very streamlined process to get it effected quickly and effectively and giving the help and assistance that we can in bringing those about, but also recognizing that some of these things, when you say nuisance, it sounds like they're not really that impactful, but they actually are. They can be very negatively impactful to some of our citizens when just a little communication, a little conversation might help to satisfy that. But my question tonight, Mayor, for the council was the staff, or what I hear from our public safety officers and firemen, is that they'd really like to know what the council wants. What do we want to do? How because we're going to get calls from citizens going to say, hey, I got this code enforcement letter. I don't think it's fair. Where are we at on that? Are we going to stand behind them and say, Well, they're doing their job. They're enforcing the code as it's written. It's for the betterment of our entire community, and there's reasons behind that. And so I think that what I've seen and what I'm here to express tonight is I think that, as I said, I don't want to be redundant, but I think that we're at a time where we need a little bit more proactive code enforcement. I think that the city and staff can clarify this, but I think staff is also on board in recognizing that as well. And in speaking with Mr. Segmiller, our city attorney, he very much supported our effort in bringing this forward and having this discussion. But really what we need, Mayor, is I think our employees, the city employees at all levels, wants to know that the council's appetite for enforcing the code enforcement violations. And again, just one last comment, a very clear distinction between what we would consider maybe a nuisance or a common occurrence and the egregious ones. The egregious ones need to be dealt with quickly and robustly at all levels, because it's not only just inconvenience or a nuisance, that they actually create a safety issue for our public safety officers, for our firemen. And I've had those stories told to me personally and directly, and it's been interesting to me how code enforcement actually does affect safety for our public safety officers. So Mayor, I'd really like, if we can, it's however it's your meeting, but just to get an idea of where the council wants to go so that the direction can be taken back to staff so that they know that if they write a ticket or a complaint, that the council's not going to say, well, those darn guys, we don't want them bothering you about that. That we need to be in this together for the betterment of our community, understanding that there's different levels, and the egregious ones we need to deal with directly and swiftly.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman Ivey. Council, I'm happy to turn to you for some feedback to that. I'm also willing to invite Drew and Chief to come forward. I can do that now or later, just whatever you think. You have comments now, or would you like to hear from staff first? Staff? Let's start with Chief and then Drew. If you want to both come forward and be ready. And I think this will give the council a little more context in which to answer that well-posed question, Councilman.
Good evening. I'm going to defer all questions to Jeremy. No. Appreciate the conversation. We have felt a little bit confused at times when it comes to code enforcement. What we want to do is still respect the property rights of these people, but still maintain a quality of life for the rest of the community when it comes to code enforcement. Some of the things that were mentioned by our city manager with the nuisances and different things, obviously if it's a public safety issue, it's going to be dealt with. But if it's a nuisance by way of sight or a smell or something that we can't something that we can't necessarily fix right away, it's going to take some time. And some of those issues that we have is these nuisances might be coming from a location that isn't owned, or we have to contact or find who owns the property, right, to hold them accountable to what's happening. So at times it's a tenant that's there that says, well, that's not my stuff, or that's not my property, and we're looking at tax records and everything else at that point now to find out who needs to be held accountable. So there is some time lapse when it comes to getting stuff taken care of, but really we're willing to do whatever we need to do to make the city safe and enjoyable for everyone.
In your opinion, Chief, is there any adjustments to current code that you need in order to better find that balance of enforcement while respecting, property rights and individuals? Or is it more process driven that we can work through kind of internally with some coordination?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on, we mentioned in one of our meetings, is that we want to streamline that communication with our citizens as well, giving them a tool to make sure that they're providing the information to the right people. If it's a code violation or if it's something else from another department, then it gets to those individuals to solve that.
You have a few code enforcement officers.
So I have one civilian and one sworn that's in code enforcement. So the laws changed a while ago, making it so a civilian officer can't write a misdemeanor citation anymore. So anything that's a misdemeanor in our city ordinance has to be handled by our sworn staff.
And do those two officers, civilian and sworn, do they report solely to you, or do they also report to community development?
They're my employees, but we do work with community development a lot on
Okay.
different zoning and issues as well. And part of their confusion too is that they are sometimes put into the mix of areas that they may not have expertise in. So if it's a inspection thing or
A wall that's
a
built in the
wall
wrong
or something,
place?
they might need to include a city inspector to come out and do their side of it. So
You're saying everything doesn't just fit in one clean box?
not anymore.
Yeah, I understand.
We play in a lot of sandboxes.
Interaction with chief counsel, this is your opportunity.
How quickly are the safety issues how quickly are those handled for the process? If there's a safety issue or concern, what's the process for handling that? How long does that usually take?
So if, for example, well, maybe there's an abandoned vehicle on a road. There's typically a 48-hour to get that removed. If it is causing a safety issue, then it can be removed immediately if we can find the owner. If not, then we can impound the vehicle. But we typically try and work with the citizens to get that compliance. If not, then we'll get it taken care of.
What are you looking for from the council at this point, chief? What do you need from us?
Just direction and support. I mean, we're willing to go. If you want it to be more proactive enforcement on our side, then we'll do that. If you want it a complaint-based driven enforcement, then we'll do that. But I think there needs to be that mix. We want to still partner with the community. We don't want to just start being big brother and imposing a lot of.
Legislative body, what
I do
feedback
like
do you
that
have?
approach to have, trying to work with our community, because I love how when I first had a conversation with you, you mentioned to me that you like to have a police force that is service oriented and trying to work with our community. Right. And that really stuck out in my mind. And I feel like there's a lot of people that have a lot of, just when you hear from our community, they have a lot of respect for our police officers and wanting to help. And, when, I can't remember that one lady that came, she said that you have other citizens from other cities calling, the police officers here because they genuinely care about, what she's going through. And so I think that says a lot about your leadership and what you guys do here. So I like how you are trying to go and work with our citizens. I wonder if it would be helpful to, are there nuisances that, I noticed that there's 34 identified nuisances. Would it be help to have more specific nuisances that you're seeing problems that we could add to perhaps add to that list? Because some of them are a little bit vague, what Jeremy was saying. For one, it says the noise injures or endangers the comfort and the health or safety of 3 more persons. That could be very vague to, what could bother, children. My children bother a lot of people, so, and I'm sure we could get 3 people to, and my husband too, you could put him on the list. I'm sure some people here might put him on the list.
If it's a misdemeanor, then we'll send our sworn officer over to talk to you. But I don't know if we need any more. I guess all we need is clarity from the council as to how you want or what you want enforced. So we can smooth it out as long as we've got the support and back from council. Because another thing is we want this to be done equally across the city. It can't be, code enforcement enforced one way in Green Springs or Old Town or Fields or wherever else. It's got to be enforced equally across the city. And that's just what, like council or city manager said, these could be your neighbors now getting the phone calls and the letters, and they come to you and say, hey, take care of this for me. You're like, sorry, but that's our ordinance. So.
Chief, I think from my perspective, I appreciate you guys using your discretion, right? I appreciate that you don't have a heavy-handed type of a code enforcement. I look at some of the news articles from our sister city next door and think, whatever they're doing in code enforcement, I don't want to copy that, right? So, I appreciate that you do work so closely with the citizens and use your discretion. I support you guys, running your own department the way you need.
And I think Councilman Ivy's correct. There is a lot of a lot of construction, a lot of growth, and I think now is the time to build our presence, I guess, as this is going on. We still want to make sure that we don't want to be left behind in it, is what I'm trying to
Let
say.
it get out of hand.
Yeah, so we want to be in front of it, taking care of issues.
Mayor, if I could, I appreciate everything you do, Chief, and our police department here is second to none, and our fire department, all of our departments really, and so I agree with everything that's been said, and I especially, we trust you guys to use your best judgment, and it's kind of a hard thing because you've got different types of violations, and I'm just thinking of, two different types of scenarios. One would be, say, if there's an old widow that her yard is, overgrown and out of control, and she can't afford to hire anybody, she can't afford to do, she can't do it herself. So that's a different situation, and I think in a situation like that, we need to do everything we can to bend over backwards to help her and to, do whatever we can to solve that and take a soft approach. But then it's a little different, we've seen some cases where people are running a full-blown mechanic shop in their front yard, with lifts and everything else right in their front yard. And I think that's a little different, so I'm with, Councilman Belliston and these others here that, I think it's fine to, I don't know if this is to drop the hammer, so to speak, on somebody that's an egregious violation,
And our code addresses habitual offenders and.
Yeah.
So.
And so I would say, I don't want to speak for everybody, but we support you 100% in using your best judgment, and know that this council, for the vast majority of the, offenders, we think a soft approach is the best way, like going through a process. Yeah. But, we have had some pretty serious offenders, and, we've seen more of them pop up lately, and, I'd say use your best judgment. You guys, have great judgment, and you know what's going on in the city, and we support you 100% in what you're doing, so.
Okay, well, I know the direction I want to go, so.
What I'm hearing is primarily complaint-driven, kind but firm, using good discretion. Is that accurate, council? Will you stay close by, Chief, in case something else comes up? Drew, just like to get your take on this. You deal with a lot of this on some of the land use issues and things.
Yeah, we deal with a lot of things, but again, it is broken, or we can break it up. It used to be, and the way I look at it, code compliance can be from the extreme of you have somebody out there driving the streets looking for it, and there are cities that do that, right? And I know we don't want to be that way. To the other extreme is where you wait for any complaint, you wait for 3 people to call in on that one thing, which probably will never happen, right? At least 3. Well, every once in a while it will, but I think that's the too far extremes. We're just here trying to find out where the council's pulse is. When I started here 18, 19 years ago, it was all about just only if a complaint comes in, we're not out doing anything. And then it's transposed a little bit over time. I'm now on my 3rd mayor, and probably my 6th kind of different council group, 6 to 8, depending on coming, going. And so I know a lot of things have changed, and I appreciate Councilman Ivy bringing this up just to get where this council is. We've never really done that before. I kind of wish we had over the years, just to find out where that council might be in this, but I also know that we're at a time where we're expecting more. We're looking at our commercial developments to look better. We're asking for things to just be better, our subdivisions to be better.
Telegraph Street in particular, there's some areas.
So I think with some of that, I think we're just hoping that we might be able to come back and say, do you want us to get out there a little more to help clean up even some of the other things a little bit more? And it kind of changed from only go by complaint when I started to, well, if you go by complaint, but if you're out in the field and you're following up on a complaint, if you see something else within your view, go ahead and try to take care of that as well.
Hold right there. I want to get council's thought on that. What are you thinking about a situation like that? Is that reasonable?
Well, I think again, like what we extended the same courtesy to the chief is they have great judgment in Drew's department as well. And I feel comfortable with just, I mean, I don't think we can pinpoint every situation.
That's right, and
Do you
everyone's
see something
different.
that's out of line or that's not in the best interest of the city, then I think the same would apply with your department.
Well, if it's a safety issue, that's going to be threatening, lives, then I could see that being a reasonable. But if it's like what you brought up, for example, if it's someone who has weeds, and so the city's gonna approach that. So I feel like it's different depending on the situation.
Well, I'll let you know what we've done. I appreciate you bringing that one up about the widow. And those have been brought up to us at different times. What I love about the people I've worked with over the years here is people care. They'll go out and find people to help that widow. They'll find out which church she may go to. We've had, since I've been here, probably at 5 to 6 different times, different churches. We've had, I probably had 20 instances, but 5 different congregations. We got a hold of them and said, hey, one of your people could really use your help. And they say, well, she didn't let us know. And of course they're not, right? So then all of a sudden, the next Saturday, they all show up and take care of the widow's thing. That's the things I love to see. And so that's why I don't mind going and doing that sometimes. It gives people a chance to get out and serve a little bit more. And a lot of them, because people don't go tell people, I need your help. And yet they do. So I kind of appreciate that we get out and do that. I hope that helps on that. So.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, with my job, I deal with a lot of different cities and city employees. And some city employees are like, what can I do to help you? How can we get through this? And then some are not like that, And so I hope we have an atmosphere and a culture in this city where, the code enforcement officer, if he sees a problem, can go knock on the door and say, how can we help you clean up your place or whatever? And then a lot of it has to do with the attitude of the individual, if we go in with that attitude, how can we help you? And start a discussion, and then we can make good things happen, but then we might go into somebody else and how can we help you? And they tell us to get lost, or whatever. And so I think, if we go in with that attitude, a soft approach, how can we help you? We're here to help, then I'm fine with that. So.
Yeah, just to follow up with that, most of the time when it ends up in a citation, and most of the times the judge and the prosecuting attorneys that we have don't realize what we go through before it ever gets there. We don't just show up, you have a problem, we say, get it done in 3 days, we come back, it isn't, we write a citation, we walk away. That's not how we do business here by any means. We do like it's spoken up here. We try to get voluntary. And so by the time someone does end up in a citation, we've gone through months of trying to work with them, help them, get it resolved. That's just how we've been doing business since I've been here. Just for your information, I don't know of any time that we've just, within a week write a citation saying, we're not going to put up with you. You're just going to have to go to court and, for the judge.
I remember when we had a problem over in my neck of the woods with that little auto dealership, and it was a community effort to help her to get in compliance.
I drove by today and I thought of that very thing. So that's done pretty good. They've kept the weeds down.
They've kept the weeds down pretty good. And so a community effort with a good outcome is possible. Yep. And I agree with you. Washington City has that kind of an atmosphere and culture. And we trust the staff and the police officers and the code compliance officers to have good judgment, and we support you 100%.
Well, we appreciate that. And just, the question was asked, and I'll just let you know, just from my experience of it, I think we have the codes in place. I really do.
Okay.
I don't think we need to add any more.
So this is a process. We'll just refine the process, which is an administrative side.
Supportive process, okay. And, from across the board, from us and the support we give.
If you need code,
citizens,
bring it back to this body. Otherwise, we'll trust that the process will be handled administratively. Councilman Bellison, we're running up against the clock. Final thoughts.
I'm happy to let the other council members talk sometimes and listen, right? But, Drew, I personally seen you pull over your truck on the side of the road and pick up trash or something that you see.
You noticed that?
That's out of place, right? And I'm code enforcement to me is kind of like that, right? So when you see things that are out of place, that you can either drive past it and ignore it, or you can just take care of it, right? So again, same with the police department. You guys are your own, you don't need supervision from us. You know, use your own discretion as to what you think. Because sometimes it just sits with you as like, that doesn't feel right, you know, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just support what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting us talk and bringing this forward. Again, it's just something that's always been out there for all the years I've been here, but this is the first time, you know, we've actually had the discussion. I appreciate it.
It's a good conversation. Jeremy, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, one thing I would like to mention, I'm starting to hear more, somebody will turn in a complaint or something to code enforcement, then we very quickly hear, well, nobody cared. And I think what you're hearing here is that we do care, and sometimes because we care, it doesn't get done immediately. So sometimes when somebody says, I turned this in and nobody cares, we need to help them understand it's because we care, that it's taking a little bit of time. But we do care about our community, we want to make it look good. So I appreciate the conversation.
I love
We need
that.
what we need.
And whether in a workshop meeting or just by email, maybe a follow-up on this in about 3 months on some of the policies and, you know, any of the refinements if you're handling it administratively. Would really appreciate that. Councilman Ivey, anything else?
The only thing I would add, Mayor, is that if we could maybe look at maybe having a time limit on the camping. That has come up several times.
That's maybe, okay.
I think so, maybe 60 days, something that it's well within reason of how long family members would be staying at your place in their own camper. But sure
Maybe the
enough,
homeowner
we
would be
could-
grateful for that.
That's why
On that note, we've ran out of time. This meeting ends at 5:30. Our regular meeting starts at 6 p.m., so we'll take a 30-minute break. I'll look to the council for a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Motion by Councilman Belliston, second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned for 30 minutes, which our regular meeting will start after. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, and we are here for our regular city council meeting. I'd like to excuse Councilman Coates, who is on vacation with his family. Also like to excuse our city attorney, Thad Segmiller. Some heard me say this earlier, but hopefully right now he is coaching the 12U Major League softball team and just thumping Cedar in every way. I love you, Mayor Green, up there in Cedar, but we like to win in softball and baseball and anything competitive. Before we get started, I would as we get started, it is my pleasure to invite Mrs. Gail Cooper Smith to come forward, representing the Interfaith Council, and she will start our meeting off with the word of prayer. Yes, right here at the mic. And then we'll excuse her. Thank you for making time to be here, and thank you also for being our Grand Marshal at Cotton Days the year before last. You did wonderful. You had the best waves. The new royalty could learn a thing from that. Thank you, Gail. Some of you may have noticed that I emphasized the Cooper in her name. That's because Cooper is her Washington City roots, so we always appreciate when she comes over to the city of her birth. Thank you. I've asked Councilwoman Kim Casperson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All rise. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Council, is there any, or staff or council, is there any discussion on the agenda before I call for a motion to approve? I can tell you that we do not have need to go to a closed session this evening. Drew?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, staff and the applicant are wishing to have item number 9A, the zone change, tabled. And I think it's for 2 weeks.
We don't have a meeting on the 24th,
Oh, that's right, so it'll be the
August 14th?
Yeah, August 14th, and that's right, because we have Pioneer Day. So that's what we're asking, that be tabled, and for the folks that are here tonight.
Okay, and that is for the zone change, Z-24-04 for the overlay zone, Title 3, Chapter 3. Okay.
Mayor, can we just see if there's anyone here tonight that was planning to speak to that and see if we can?
Okay, Councilman Ivey, so the public hearing on this item took place during the city council or the planning commission meeting a week ago, and so we've watched that. However, are there those in attendance who are here for item 9A? If you wouldn't mind just raising your hand if you're here specifically for that item. Okay. Council, it's up to you if you're okay to table that. I'm fine with that, but I would ask for the liberty to allow for some public comment if any of them would like to when we get to that point on the agenda. If you're okay with that? Okay. So, Council, I'm going to turn to you for an approval of the agenda, tabling item 9A until August 14th at the applicant's request, but also allowing for public comment on that item.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight, and also that we table number 9A until our first meeting in August, but allow some public comment at the mayor's discretion.
Thank you, Councilman Henderson. Do I have a second on that?
Second it.
A second by Councilwoman Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have an approved agenda. We'll move on to announcements. You know, there's people in this community that do a lot of service that that goes unnoticed, and sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes it's long and inconvenient, but it does make a difference. If you followed our last meeting, you may have noticed that we said goodbye to a planning commissioner who served for 6 years. In fact, for about 3 of those years as the chair. And I would say during one of the most robust growth and development time periods in Washington City's history, it's not only a planning commissioner, not only a chairman of the commission, but someone who's become a dear friend to myself and to the council, someone who we've relied on very heavily to conduct meetings with fairness and kindness, to look at the applications with wisdom and experience. And so I couldn't let us say goodbye without inviting Mr. Jason Hansen, who served on the Planning Commission from 2018 to 2024, to come forward, and would like to just offer him a little token of our appreciation. Mr. Hansen. Chairman, usually you are in my seat.
Yeah.
We like rotate every other meeting, don't we? We have for a long time. I wanted to give you one final opportunity to be on this side and just tell us a little bit about what it's meant to you to represent Washington City in such an important, critical time period. And then this, hopefully you can find a place in your office just to display that, and hopefully the 2018 to 2024, that those years and many meetings mean something to you. It sure has meant something to us.
Nice. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, awesome. You know, I got to tell you, as I've gotten to know some of you from the council, I've told you the story how I got appointed to the Planning Commission. For those in the audience, and especially Mr. Saunders here, you better listen to this really carefully. When I moved here from Carlsbad like 6 or 7 years ago, I got the flyer in the mail from the city that said they had an opening on the Planning Commission, and I was pretty involved in Carlsbad when I lived there, and I thought, well, I could do that here. I'm interested in getting involved and knowing who's who. And so I came and met with Mayor Kenny. I got an appointment, came and met with him. And we talked for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and then that was it. It was kind of uneventful, and I left. And about a month later, I got a call from somebody in HR, and they said, we need to get your information for payroll. And I said, what for? And she said, well, you get paid for being on the Planning Commission. And I said, I get paid to be on the Planning Commission? Wait a second. Am I on the Planning Commission? Nobody's called me and told me I was on the Planning Commission. So be ready. You never know. So she hung up, and the next call I got was from the mayor saying, hey, I appointed you to the Planning Commission. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. And I was like, oh, okay. So fast forward 6 or 7 years, and the other night, I was on a ladder doing something I probably shouldn't have done at 51 years old. And I got a text from one of my friends. He goes, hey, I'm watching the council meeting, and they just released you as the planning commissioner chair. And I go, oh, they did? I thought I had one more meeting. And so I came in not knowing, and I left a little bit early, but I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to everybody. I've called some of you and reached out. And thank you very much for the time that I did have to serve. I very much appreciated it and liked it. I enjoyed it. There's some of it that it was challenging at times, for sure. And I kind of took the approach to my role is anytime I see something in the city that I don't understand, I always would give the city the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, there's probably a reason. If this is that high or this is that far away from this, let me just go find out what the reason was. And as a
planning commissioner and as the chair, it was interesting to me, the people that came here that wanted to learn what that is, and they're interested in the betterment of our city. And there's people that come that just want to throw stones and shoot arrows and be upset about things. And it's such a great thing for me to be a part of helping educate people in the city to understand there's a reason we do it the way that we do it, and there's a reason things are the way they are. And our city is awesome. That's why people like moving here. And so I had a great time. I appreciate all of you very much for your friendship that I've been able to build and want to continue as well. So I'm not moving or going anywhere. I'll still be around. But thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
You've done a wonderful job. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We really are going to miss you, Jason. We won't have a council meeting on July 24th because it's Pioneer Day. So the city offices will be closed. But I expect to see every one of you at 7 a.m. for the Lions Club breakfast right here. I know I'll see you 4 or 5. And then the parade at 8 a.m., the foot races. I think we might be able to dial something up Sienna Hills against Coral Canyon if we do it right. Who knows? The foot races, and then we have a great time out here at Veterans Park until it gets so hot we can't stand it anymore. And then we go home or go swimming. But also we will have fireworks on Pioneer Day on the 24th of July at 10 p.m. So enjoy those. We don't do them on the 4th, but we do our fireworks historically on the 24th. Council, that's really the only announcement that I have. Is there anything I may have missed? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is declarations of abstentions and conflicts. Anything to declare or abstain? Seeing none, we will go to the next item. Item 4A, this is introduction of the 2024 Washington City Royalty. It was my honor and my pleasure to be at the, what do we call it, Brooke? It was the pageant. It was so much fun. And I can tell you, I'm going to rightfully put each of our 4 royalty members on the spot tonight, but I just want to tell you, they are incredibly talented. I started off the meeting and then I sat in the back and I just watched it. And, I'm a father to 3 daughters, and so I really appreciated just the grace, the courage, and all of your talent that was on display. And thank you for being involved. I'm thanking you in advance for also representing our city and for also the tremendous amount of work you're going to be putting in over the next period of time for the scholarship that you'll earn. So first, let me just recognize and thank the pageant director and liaison, Brooke Hall Prince. Brooke, would you come forward? I have their names, but I would like you to just talk a little bit about what this means to you to come back as former royalty, to represent Washington and help mentor this royalty. And then if you could just introduce each of them, have come forward. But if you'd come to the mic.
So like Mayor Staley said, these girls are super talented and we're extremely excited to work with them this week this year as they represent Washington City as our royalty. But it's crazy to even be in this room when I was here 7 years ago as Miss Washington City being introduced. And so I just get chills because this is something that changed my life and now I get to be a part of it, helping change others' lives through this pageant and this scholarship organization. So I couldn't be happier or more blessed to be in this position. But I'll introduce our girls. So I'll have you girls come up. Our Miss Washington City is Myra Peterson. She's here with her father, Dave Peterson, today. And then our first attendant is Brinley McDonald. And she's joined by her mom, Brittany McDonald. And then we have our second attendant, Tessa Stewart. Her parents, Mike and Holly Stewart, are here with her. And then we have our Miss Spirit, Kinsley Barton. And her mom, Kinsey Barton, is here with her today. Do you have any questions for them, or are we good?
Absolutely, we do.
Okay.
Let's start with Miss Washington City, Miss Myra Peterson. Will you just come to the mic, introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us what it means to represent Washington as Miss Washington City.
Okay, so my name is Myra Peterson. Like you heard, I'm so excited to be a part of this royalty this year. I can't wait. I'm very involved with cheer, and I go to Crimson Cliffs High School, and I'll be a sophomore. So I can't wait for that to finally be in the high school building. This just means so much to me. I hope I can represent this role as something that people can look up to, and people can see me as a great example, and I hope I can just make people happy and feel welcome. And
Well said. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Myra. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Myra? Okay. And I see your dad back there. We've been friends for a long time. He's proud papa. That's good. First attendant, Brindley McDonald. Will you come and tell us a little bit about yourself and what it means to you? And then will you also just tell us a little bit about your talent? Because I thought it was really cool, what the talent that you showed at the pageant.
Okay, so I'm Brindley McDonald. I go to Crimson Cliffs as well. I'm going to be a junior this year. I'm on the drill team and I love to dance, which my talent was actually dancing, and it was a dance that I just choreographed myself, and a song that I really loved, and I love just being involved at school. And this role to me, it means just representing the city well and being an example to the people of the city and being an example to the youth. And I'm so excited for this year. It'll be great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brindley. All right, let's go to our second attendant, Tessa Stewart. I want you to answer the same thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself, but instead of your talent, tell us about your hobby. And I remember what your hobby is, so.
My hobby?
Your hobby. I think it was called your hobby. You know, when you were like with the.
Okay, yes.
What's it called? The activity?
Active wear.
Active wear.
Okay,
That's the one.
I am Tessa Stewart. I go to Crimson as well. I'm going to be a junior. My active wear was skiing. I love skiing so much. I go with my family every time we get the chance. We have season passes, and it just means a lot to me to be able to be a part of this. I'm super excited to get to know all the girls and get to know my city better and just represent the city. It's really amazing.
You'll do a great job. What did your dad tell you when you were doing this pageant? What advice did he give you? I see him back there. I know your dad too.
My dad was very helpful. He was just very encouraging. He actually really helped me with my interview, which was really, he just helped me get to know myself better, encourage myself, just being ready for the interview, and that was the biggest part.
Thank you. You're all so well-spoken. Great job. Thank you, Tessa. And then Miss Spirit, Kinsley Barton. Tell us about yourself. Tell us a little bit about what it meant to be a part of this pageant. I know it's probably not your first pageant, and a little bit about what it means for you to be involved with this royalty.
It is my first pageant, actually. But to be involved with this community, it means a lot to me, and it means that I can help out the kids and everyone in this community, and yeah, get to learn about these new girls. And I also go to Crimson. I'm going to be a senior. And yeah, I'm just super excited.
I love that you mentioned that you get to be with these other girls. Can you just talk to us a little bit about, you know, kind of the bond and the friendship that you've developed and that you think you might develop over the next year serving together?
Well, I mean, obviously we'll probably do like lunches together, like throughout the school year, which will be really fun. And it'll be fun to like kind of like have it as like a little like secret almost around our school. Like no one really will know, I'm guessing. I don't
But you're
think you
all
guys
Crimson.
advertise it. But yeah, it's super cool that we're all Crimson, I think. But
Well, thank you so much, Kinsey. You're all so talented. Council, any comments or questions? We have them on the spot. They're handling it with such class, but I haven't been able to stump them yet.
Mayor Kenny, you guys are great. All of you so well spoken, as the mayor said. So we're excited to see you in the parades. We're usually in the parade too, and we don't do parade waves as well as you guys probably do, but we're excited to work with you for the next year. So it's exciting.
Congratulations to all of you. So, very cool, very cool.
Mayor, what I noticed each one of them say is that they understand how important it is to represent our city well.
Yep.
They know where we live. They know the blessings by being here. And it's a pleasure to meet each of you and look forward to seeing you at the Crimson football, basketball, baseball, and everything else during the year as you're having your year of service. So anyway.
Yeah, come up and say hi to us. You'll see us at the community and at the ball games and at the school. Yeah. Councilman Casperson.
I'm just impressed with each of you. I think it'd be at your age to put yourself out there with your talent, and then to speak in front of city council. That would be so scary to speak in front of all these guys.
What about you? She's your
I'm
safe
nice
spot.
looking.
Yeah, she's nice. That's the difference.
But I'm just I'm looking forward to getting to know you, all of you, and just working with you and doing the different parades and perhaps service together too. So congratulations.
Brooke, any final thoughts?
Not much. They blow me away every time, and I'm super excited to work with them this year and see what it brings. If you have any service projects that come up, let us know. We'll be there. But can we grab a picture with you before we leave?
Absolutely. Let's do one with me, and then let's do one with the council. That work?
That, yes.
All right. This is a good spot for me. All right. Let's go. You guys get used to it. Like famous now. Council, let's get a group picture. Welcome to the official. Congratulations.
Good job. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Oh, sorry. Nice to meet all of you. Oh,
All right. The best part of the meeting is over. Have a great night. Thanks so much for coming out. We'll move on to the consent agenda, consisting of the approval of minutes from City Council meeting of 6/26/24 and the board audit report for June 2024.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda consisting of the approval minutes and the board audit report.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Belliston. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor? Aye. The consent agenda is approved unanimously. We'll move on to award of bid. 6A, this is consideration to award the bid for the Red Hills Parkway and Green Spring Drive widening project to Sunrock in the amount of $1,063,856.25. Paul Mogul is going to present to the council on this item.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Thanks, council. On July 2nd at 2 p.m., bids were opened publicly and read aloud at the Public Works Building. We received 3 bids that were competitive, the low bid being Sunrock. We've presented on this project, but just an overview of it. The project widens 5 lanes on Red Hills Parkway to the Green Spring intersection. The project features constructing about 26,000 square feet of asphalt, about 7,000 square feet of sidewalk, about 3,500 feet of curb and gutter, and other miscellaneous features that go along with widening a road. And open for any questions that you may have.
All right, what questions do you have for the city engineer on this?
Can you tell us what the engineer's estimate was?
Yeah, the engineer's estimate was about 20,000 more than, so the Sunrock come in about 20,000 less than the engineer's estimate.
So prices are, it seems like they're stabilizing, at least we kind of know what to expect. Is that what you've seen?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
It's all, sometimes once you think you got it dialed in, and then the next one comes in and you find out you don't have it dialed in as quite as well as you thought. But the bids were all pretty competitive. The highest was 12% over the engineer's estimate, which isn't bad at all. And so we're pretty pleased with the way these come in. They were all pretty competitive and pretty pleased with
When do you anticipate starting construction?
So to try to get this to get some good prices on it, because usually you get better prices if you bid this in the early part of the year. We told them that they have to be, they can start, we left it open on when they can start. They have to be done by President's Day weekend. That's
February of 25?
25, correct. So that's when they have to be done. They can start anytime between now and when that.
Okay. Is there a time period that they have to be finished once they start? I mean, I assume you don't want to start now and take until President's Day to finish.
They have to be done by President's Day weekend. So, and I think the project is, I can't remember if it's 90 days. It might be 90 days. So 3 months before that, they would have to start.
Okay. So that's sometimes hit or miss on asphalt. Do they have
As
a
far
clause
as
for that or
temperatures?
what?
What's that? Are you meaning like temperatures on the
Yeah.
asphalt? Yeah, so they have to plan accordingly. We don't have, usually we don't have to follow the UDOT spec on the asphalt, so sometimes we get there.
So sometimes you get to fudge it a little bit on when you let them lay asphalt.
I'm not
Councilman,
gonna agree or
I'm just
disagree.
asking
We
for my
build all
own
of our
purposes
roads
next
to
time I'm
standard.
laying asphalt.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with that. We follow the spec.
Let's get to a motion on this. Let's get this bid approved and then we'll let them get to work on it.
Mayor, I can make that motion if you're ready.
I am ready.
Make a motion to award the bid for the Red Hills Parkway and Green Springs widening project in the amount of $1,063,856.25 to Sunrock.
We have a motion by Councilman Ivy,
Second.
second by Councilman Bellison. Let's go roll call. Councilman Belliston?
Aye.
Henderson?
Aye.
Ivy?
Aye.
Councilwoman Casperson?
Aye.
Is approved unanimously. Thank you, Paul. And just for the record, that's going to line up Buena Vista Boulevard with 5 lanes that ties right into, is it Red Hills? Red Cliffs? Red Hills Parkway. Okay. We'll move on to public hearings. The first item is 7A. This is a public hearing and consideration to approve an ordinance for a partial road abandonment vacation located at Landfill Road. The applicant is Galloway, and City Planner Eldon Gibb will present to you on this particular item.
The applicant is requesting to vacate the public right-of-way, approximately 0.44 acres at the east end of Landfill Road. In designing the gates for their new construction landfill project, the applicant identified that the private gates would extend onto the current public right-of-way, which is not acceptable. Vacating this right-of-way and giving it to the landfill will solve this problem. Staff has no concern with the proposal, as the small portion of roadway dead ends at this location. And staff recommends that the city council approve this partial road abandonment. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Council, what questions do you have for the city planner on this item? Any? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to item 7A, the road abandonment vacation at Landfill Road? I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to officially close the public hearing. And council, I'm turning to you for a motion on item 7A.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. Oh, go ahead. I'd like to make a motion that we approve an ordinance for partial road abandonment / vacation located at Landfill Road.
I have a motion by Councilman Henderson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Casperson. It's an ordinance, so we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
Ivy. Aye. Casperson.
Aye.
Belliston.
Aye.
The ordinance is approved unanimously, 4-0. Next item of business, 7B. This is a public hearing and consideration to approve height waiver HW-24-02 for height waiver and setback allowance of a detached garage located at 120 East, 100 South. The applicant is Kendall Clements. Welcome, Mr. Clements. The city planner, Eldon Gibb, will present to the council on this item. And I will, if necessary, give the applicant opportunity to speak. Eldon.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The applicant is proposing to convert their existing detached garage into a detached accessory dwelling unit. The project is located at 120 East, 100 South. The existing garage is 19 feet 3 inches, plus or minus, and the garage is set 3 feet off the side and rear property lines. The maximum allowable height for a detached accessory dwelling unit is 17 feet, and the minimum setback from the property lines are 5 feet. The existing garage meets all of the requirements as it is currently being used. However, to convert this to the detached accessory dwelling unit, the structure would not be in compliance with the height and setback requirements. The building would be 27 inches too tall and 24 inches in the side and rear setbacks. The applicant is asking for the height and setback allowance from the city council in order to convert the existing detached garage into a detached accessory dwelling unit. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Council, questions for Eldon?
What is the reasoning that you have a 3 versus a 5 for a detached garage versus, having a dwelling unit?
On the setback?
Yeah, on the setback.
I'll jump in and take that if you're okay. The difference is a detached garage versus an accessory dwelling is because it's livable space in the ADU. And so the reason that we decided back when we made these detached is that the building code requires if you go within 5 feet to a property line, you have to start putting in rated walls. You just have limitations, so we didn't want to have to take each one by case. We just said if we keep all the ADUs at 5 feet, they can build them with whatever windows and doors they want to do. They don't have to spend extra money on putting a fire rated wall in, and it just made it cleaner that way. And so that's when we came up with this a couple years back, is that we went with the 5 feet to keep that, easily accessible for the people building it. So that's the big difference. So he will have to come back and the walls will have to be rated when he converts this. To meet that, he'll have to follow the minimum on the openings like doors and windows because of the foot requirement. All the building codes will have to be met, but that's the reason why we did. I hope that answers that for you.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Great question. Any other interaction with staff? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this item can come forward now. I will make note that we did get public comment on this from Mr. Clement's neighbor, Ken Nilsson, who has no concerns. He's fine with that. He would be the adjacent neighbor. Seeing no additional public comment, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I will turn to you, council, for a motion on item 7B.
Mayor, may I make a comment first?
Go ahead.
I think that this is well within what the spirit of the law is with state and local ordinance in regards to trying to create livable space for family and friends, and I speak in favor of this motion.
Any other discussion on this item?
Mayor, if I could, I just think this is great. I wish we'd see more of this in our city. Housing, as everybody knows, is hard to come by, especially for, people just starting out that need a place or, can't afford some of the other things that are available. So I commend Mr. Clements for doing this. I think it's great. So.
Well said. Thank you, Councilman. Further discussion and/or motion. Would you like to comment? Well, you're the applicant. You can always come forward, but I think they're about to approve it. So just be careful not to do anything to change that.
Well, I was going to make a few
Just say your name,
on the city
Kendall.
council.
That's fine. We give you the platform, my friend. It's good to see you, by the way. We all know you.
Yeah, I've worked with everybody on the council except for councilman or council person. I don't know how to say it.
Woman.
Casperson. I haven't had a chance to work closely with her yet.
Councilwoman, yeah.
But we looked at trying to stay within the ordinances as they were. They're just tough to do. We even looked at buying land from both of my neighbors to make it that setback, or I even had engineers come in and look at prices of moving the barn, which is cost prohibitive, and it would make the yard look ugly as well, and that disappointed my wife. But as a local broker agent, we are going out in the community trying to help establish these ADUs, because I think it's one of those times where this crosses aisles to find solutions to affordable housing or attainable housing, which is tough right now. The cost of land is super expensive, and this is a good approach. I'm just happy to see that the city is doing what we've been doing. I've read your 2024 goal statements on it, and I think Councilman Ivy's comment of this fits within the spirit of the law fits right with that vision statement, so I appreciate the insights and comments on it. But I've enjoyed working with the city staff to try and find these solutions rather than just saying, no, we really worked hard to find a good solution. This is where we're at today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall, and we appreciate how you do in the community. We're fortunate to have you as a neighbor and friend here, and very well spoken. Thank you. You do a lot in terms of property. The public hearing's been opened. It's been closed. We've discussed this. I'm looking for a motion.
Well, and I just want to quickly say this will also be, if people have the knowledge of that they can do this with their detached garage, and they just have to meet certain requirements for the building code, they can have the opportunity to do this as well. So I'll make a motion to approve the height waiver HW 24-2 for the height waiver and setback allowance of a detached garage located at 120 East, 100 South.
Second.
Have a motion by Council Member Casperson, a second by Council Member Belliston. This is an ordinance, so let's go roll call. I think we're at Ivy, so let's go Council Member Ivy.
Aye.
Casperson.
Aye.
Belliston.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
And that is approved unanimously. You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. Next item on the agenda is resolution 8A. This is consideration to approve a resolution adopting an interlocal building inspection services agreement. Community Development Director Drew Ellerman will present on this one, and for those of you in the audience, you can thank your state legislature for giving you the option for independent inspectors, in case you don't think ours do good enough for you, which I'm confident they do.
Thank you, Mayor, for that plug, because if you didn't say it, I would have, to give my gratitude as well.
They work very hard.
But just for the folks here tonight, the state passed this last legislative session about building inspections. There are a few places in the state, and it's always the one or two bad apples that come before. It's not everybody that had this problem, but they passed a law that every city has 3 days to get an inspection. Once it's been requested, they have 3 days to perform that inspection. And if they don't, the city then is by law now required to have a third party ready and available to go on that 4th day or whatever it may be. They just didn't, the sad thing is they didn't put a limit on that third party. They said you contact them for the 4th, but they don't have to be there on the 4th day, which didn't make sense to me, but I better not say much till they'll probably put that in the next legislative session. But this is basically in follow-up to that state law. What I appreciate is a lot of the communities got together and said, hey, instead of, because the requirements for that third party, they had to have all their certifications licensed by the state and have $1 million insurance policy. So it's hard for a third party person just to open up a business to do that because of that $1 million policy. So that made it a little harder for us to track down, but thank goodness there was a lot of good minds got together and said, why don't the cities all get together and be there ready in case they can send some people over, pay them by overtime, whatever it may be, and meet that thing. So a lot of communities from Logan all the way down here to the St. George area, Washington, we've all got together and locally come up with interlocal agreements to be that party ready to help out on that day. Now, we all are just going to strive all we can and never even come close to 3 days, let alone 4. But this will put us in compliance with the state. So this is a resolution adopting that interlocal agreement so that we will be able to contact our adjoining neighborly communities to help out if we ever run into a bad situation. And every once in a while that may happen, but we're going to do all we can not to. But that's what this agreement is about. Everybody's city attorneys have looked this over and molded over. St. George was the one who kind of took the majority of it, but then again, they have the most attorneys. If you all don't know that, they do.
You mean they have more than one?
Goodness, they have more than one. They have more than 2. They have more than 3.
At some point, we should probably have.
Yeah, we ought to have 2, maybe. But anyway, so then all the other cities that are in this, Ivan's actually backed out. I don't know why. I don't know what they're going to do, but they backed out. And the rest of them, you can see it's with St. George, Hurricane, Washington, Santa Clara, Enterprise, and Washington County. We're all going to be adopting these things to use each other's services. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, but this is what this is simply all about. And it's just a contract that we will have with one another to show up, and then the payments that we'll do between each other, and just to be there to back each other up. So,
Wonderful.
But any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Questions for Drew? Discussion amongst the council?
Mayor, just maybe a comment, as Drew alluded, this ordinance actually is to meet state code from SB 185 that passed last year. That we had a lot to say on that.
Leave it to the legislative policy liaison to
Comes
throw
out all
out
the numbers
bill
and
number.
everything.
Anyway, this is just another example, Mayor, of really good mutual assistance between the cities. We have one with police, fire, public works. If there's flooding and we have a dump truck available, then we're going to send it. And this is just another example of the great county and cooperation that we have here. But I was interested. I was actually going to ask you if Ivans was omitted from the list, but now you've answered that question because I see the others are involved in it. So,
if there's not any further discussion, Councilman Ivey, would you do the honors on this one?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Make a motion to approve a resolution adopting an interlocal building inspection services agreement.
A motion by Councilman Ivey.
Second.
Second by Councilman Henderson. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Casperson.
Aye.
Belliston.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Ivey.
Aye.
That passes unanimously 4-0. Move on to ordinances. Item 9A has been tabled. However, we did allow for public comment. Just by raise of hand, are there any, we did have some public comment during the public forum. Are there any in the audience who would like to be on the record with further public comment at this time? By raise of hand? I'm happy to entertain the public comment if you'd like to. Mick, can't get you to come say a few words? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for anybody that want to make some public comment on this. I'd just ask that you keep it to about 2 to 3 minutes max. Kristen, would you like to add anything? And thank you, by the way, your comments in the public forum were well-spoken, appreciated the content and the tone.
Oh, you're welcome. So I don't want to repeat. My name's Kristen Wetzel, by the way. I just wanted to know if it will be reflected on the record that we had everybody at our previous meeting that was in opposition to what was proposed. So is that something, I'm not going to repeat what I said, but do we want a summation or just let the record reflect that?
I'm going to turn to the city manager on that one since our attorney is coaching softball and hopefully winning right now.
Yeah, so the way our minutes work, you just reflected that. So
Okay.
we'll go ahead and take that. And the people who are making the decision are here, so they also heard.
Perfect. Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate.
Thank you, Kristen. Any additional comment on this? Seeing none, we will move on to item 9B. This is an ordinance. Consideration to approve an ordinance disposing of property from Washington City to Dos Rios. City Engineer Paul Mogul, if you'll present to the council on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So this is cleaning up right away as part of the I-15 Main Street interchange project. Washington City would dispose of just under half an acre, 0.49 acres, while reserving all utility and construction easements. Washington City would also claim a 15-foot wide perpetual utility easement along the easterly edge of the old Main Street right-of-way, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
I'm confident if Councilman Coates were here, we would take the deep dive on this, but I'm not so sure we're going to take the deep dive on this tonight. Councilman Bellison, do you have any thoughts on it? I say that with all due respect. There is such a value in each of.
I'm perfectly good with it.
Okay.
So Mayor, just one question. The entity Dos Rios, I know it's an LC, but who is that entity that is going to be receiving this property?
It's the adjacent property owner, but I don't know who the owners of that.
So it's under an LC, but it's a.
Isn't that detention basin anyway? It's not?
It's part of the old roadway, right? The old Main Street Road itself.
Yeah, but like that corner is detention basin.
Right.
Well, the hashed red area,
Yeah, not the part that we're disposing of. The part we're disposing of is the old Main Street, but you're right, the part there of the Dos Rios, I think parcel 2 is.
this might help. If you're okay with me doing this, Paul, I'll try to.
While he's bringing that up, we also receive property from Dos Rios in this exchange
Correct.
as well. Would you
Yes.
speak about that quickly, just while he brings it up, please?
Yeah, so maybe if you can scroll up just a little bit more. So Dos Rios owned into Main Street, and there was also a little flag piece that went up Main Street. You can see that right in the middle there. Yeah, that. Can you highlight that?
The other
maybe
one,
right? That was in Dos Rios' name. They transferred that over to us. That, and there was also another little segment down closer to Buena Vista.
So that comes back, becomes part of the road dedication.
Yeah, so that comes over into Washington. That has already came over into Washington City's name. And so in exchange.
Highlight the area that's going to Dos Rios.
Can I ask a quick question? So, and this is just, I guess, structural, right? We had a public hearing in consideration to approve an ordinance earlier for road abandonment and vacation, but this one, we're not doing the same.
So
We don't have to go through public hearing on this one?
So if it's under a certain dollar amount, then we don't have to, and I wish Thad was here. 'Cause
That other one seemed like it would probably be under that certain dollar amount too. I'm just asking why the public hearing on one and not the other, so.
Yeah, and Thad asked me what the dollar amount was on this, and he mentioned that if it's under a certain amount, then we don't have to do a public comment.
I would also, I would play attorney just in this room, but we maintained the road, so the road still exists for the residents. We're now abandoning a section that is no longer road, right? It's now out of the roadway.
Yeah, but that was what the last one was.
No, the last one was still our road, and then we gave it to them, essentially extending their driveway. But this is now, we kept the roadway, so the residents still have the same width, the same roadway they had before.
I'm fine with it either way. I was just wondering why the different process.
That's my comment. It may not be right, but that's my comment.
I did hear that you stated a Holiday Inn Express last night, so.
Anytime I can pretend to be Thad, I mean, why would you want to be anything else, right?
Got it.
Okay, and that'll line up with the new Main Street alignment on the north side. That'll clean that up.
Correct, yep.
You feel good about it, Paul?
Yes, sir.
All right, the city engineer feels good about it. Any further discussion or a motion?
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve an ordinance disposing of property from Washington City to Dos Rios.
Have a motion by Councilman Belliston.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Casperson. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Belliston.
Aye.
That ordinance is approved unanimously, 4-0. Next section on the agenda is conditional use permit. Item 10A, this is consideration to approve conditional use permit C-24-05 for a bank with a quick serve establishment located at 798 West Buena Vista Boulevard. The applicant is Galloway and Company. City Planner Eldon Gibb will present on this item.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. All proposed projects along Buena Vista Boulevard do require a conditional use permit. The applicant is wishing to build a 2-story building that will host a new bank, 2 quick-serve restaurants, and office space. The property is currently zoned C2 and consists of 2 acres. The zoning to the north, east, and west is C2 and Buena Vista Boulevard and I-15 to the south. The building is approximately 16,900 square feet. The first floor consists of 2,155 square feet of kitchen area, 1,648 square feet of dining, and 4,468 square feet of office. One of the quick serve restaurants will provide a drive-through option for customer convenience. That's on the left-hand side of the screen. The second floor will be office space and is 8,629 square feet. The bank drive-through is located on the north end of the site. Required parking for the site is 90 parking stalls, and the proposal includes 103. Parking is adequate for this site. The exterior building elevations and landscaping are aesthetically pleasing. The new building will be required to meet the standards as outlined in city ordinance and adopted building and fire codes. Staff feels that if these can be met, then the request should be granted for the proposed new commercial development at this location. The Planning Commission reviewed this request on July 3rd, 2024, and unanimously recommended approval of C-24-05, allowing for a new bank, quick serve restaurants, and office space to be built at 798 West Buena Vista Boulevard. And that was on to the City Council based on the findings and conditions as stated in the report. And I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have.
What questions do you have for the city planner?
Mayor, may I? Is this to the east or west of Quick Quack?
To the east.
To the east, okay, great. So is it kind of in between Quick Quack and the little substation there? Okay, nice.
Just a comment. In reviewing this, it's quite the novel approach to the use of that space to combine the bank, the office use, and also the quick serve, retail fast food. It's a very attractive building. I think it's going to look really nice right there. I think it's much better than just some, kind of smaller standalone. It's better than I expected.
It is a unique building and layout. Yep.
Mayor, I just mentioned how much I appreciate the notes on the project flow card. It really helps when you know that each department has looked at it and has no concerns, but I especially appreciate Economic Development's comments on this project and what it means to the city and what it means to the taxpayers, and how this kind of shows where we're at in our evolution as a city as we continue to grow and provide those important businesses like a bank for our growth.
You know, I really appreciate that comment, Councilman Ivy. The staff has worked very hard with that process and to get the council really vetted, really good projects. Can you just speak briefly to that flow card, and kind of the different areas that staff reviews before they bring this through Planning Commission and ultimately to the council?
Well, it's really helpful because you want to be sure before you make a decision on a project that everyone's had a voice and said what needs to be said, and you have confidence in the decision that you're making. But as you look down at it, it's okay to move forward, you know, and you've reviewed, no concerns, but it's really helpful. It just really is, Mayor.
So you're seeing things from, you know, power,
yeah,
public works, you know,
yeah,
different departments.
Planning, Hillside wasn't applicable to this, public works, engineering, fire department, parks and trails, building, power, Washington Power was involved, Dixie Power was not, and economic development. And it's really helpful to me as a council member to be able to refer to this and feel confident in making a decision, because you now know that each department has looked at it and that they are confident in it with it moving forward.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because there's a lot of work that the staff does behind the scenes to bring it to this point, and we appreciate the professionalism and the vetting. I know you're dealing with a lot of projects, but I see a lot of you out there in the back, and those of you just who maybe aren't even here, just thank you. Thank you for the hard work from staff developer all the way through. You do a fantastic job. Council, I'm turning back to you now for further discussion and or a motion on this item.
I was just going to note, the Washington Power said that the drawing needs to reflect the location of the transformer and meteor location. Do we need to put that as a condition, or is that something? I just think you brought up Councilman Coates, you know, he likes to have the drawings.
Yes, you're doing a great job filling in.
And so I wonder if that would, you know, if we need to have that as a.
I'm seeing John Hinkie. Can you give the?
So
Yeah.
they'll address that in the
Okay.
construction drawings. That note is just to make sure that they don't forget that when they bring in their construction drawings.
Great point, though. Thank you for bringing that up. Is anybody comfortable to make a motion on this item?
I can do that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Belliston. Go ahead.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional unit use permit C-24-05 for a bank with a quick service establishment located at 798 West Buena Vista Boulevard.
We have a motion by Councilman Belliston.
Second.
Second by Councilman Henderson. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Ivy.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Belliston. Aye. Casperson.
Aye.
That is approved unanimously, 4-0. Still on conditional use permits, item 10B. This is consideration to approve conditional use permit C-24-06 for a fuel station located at 625 West Telegraph Street. The applicant is Galloway and Company. City Planner Eldon Gibb will present, and while you're pulling that up on your iPad, Eldon, I'll just make a note too to the council. We made some adjustments a year or two ago, seems like, to have these conditional use permits be recommended by the Planning Commission and approved by the council. I actually really appreciate being able to have this body have their set of eyes on this. So well done, council. Go ahead, Eldon.
The applicant is wishing to develop a new fuel station and convenience store on the north end of the property of the existing Walmart. The property is currently zoned C2. The zoning to the north, east, south, and west is also C2. The proposal includes a 16 fuel dispensary canopy and a 1,600 square foot convenience store. The convenience store is 20 feet tall, and the fuel canopy is 17 feet 8 inches tall. The new building will blend in with the existing Walmart building, and the proposed landscaping is also aesthetically pleasing. The new building will be required to meet the standards as outlined in the city ordinances and adopted building and fire codes. Staff feels that if these can be met, the request should be granted for the new commercial development at this location. The Planning Commission reviewed this request on July 3rd, 2024, and unanimously recommended approval of C-24-06, allowing for a fuel dispensary and convenience store to be built at 675 West Telegraph. That was on to the city council based on the findings and conditions in the report. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Any discussion, questions, comments on this item?
I was just telling Councilman Henderson, I didn't even realize they tore the last one down.
You blinked.
I guess.
It's kind of a novel idea, a little market, little Walmart market there and convenience store.
I like the idea. I think it's a good idea. And Councilman Belliston said they ought to make another pad for something over on the other side of the parking lot, because that's kind of unused space. I mean, even during the Christmas season, I don't.
Cousin Eddie might pull in there on Christmas, but other than that. All right. Somebody keep us in track. Councilman Ivy usually keep us on track. Can somebody make a motion on this one?
So Mayor, there's one question that Councilman Casperson just brought up. If you'd give us just 1 second to look at that.
Okay. If it's easy, give it to Eldon. If it's more difficult, give it to Drew.
Okay, what we're looking at is on the flow chart. There was a comment. You want to just read it, Councilman?
Yeah, the Public Works wanted to have a condition of having the pavement replaced or repaved on the private drive exiting Walmart at 700 West and Telegraph. This was their input on this.
Or do you want John?
That condition has been added, and there's also a note on the plan reflecting that. So the applicant is planning to replace that uneven, wavy, bumpy asphalt as you're pulling out.
That's part of the conditions as recommended by Planning Commission and as is in the packet for the council. It's detailed on there. So it might be prudent if it is just in this motion to approve.
So on 11.
Condition, yes, exactly, Councilwoman.
It might be
Condition
good to
11
make
states
note, recommend approval subject to the conditions as listed, just to make sure that there's an emphasis on that. That's a really good catch, Councilwoman. You want to make that motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit C-24-6 for a fuel station located at 625 West Telegraph Street with all of the conditions 1 through 11.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Casperson,
I'll second that.
second by Councilman Bellison. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
Belliston. Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
That is approved unanimously, 4-0. Last item on conditional use permits is 10C. This is consideration to approve conditional use permit C-24-08 for an exterior update and use of building located at Cottontown Village, 25 North, 300 West, number B. The applicant is Staley Investment LLC. City Planner Eldon Gibb, take it away.
Last one for the evening here for me. The old tenant, Rally Red Barn, has since moved locations, and the applicant is proposing to update the exterior finishes of the building. The new event center will accommodate gatherings such as weddings and/or corporate events. The exterior modifications will enhance the look of the building by updating with modern finishes and colors. The update includes installing board and batten that will be painted a light neutral color. Proposed operating hours for this use will be evenings and weekends, which the applicant suggests will not interfere with the other businesses as they operate during the daytime hours and are closed during the weekends. With that being said, parking is adequate for the site, with the proposal showing 177 parking spaces. Staff has reviewed the proposed project and finds that it meets the intent of the current zoning regulations for the site. The Planning Commission reviewed this request on July 3rd, 2024, and unanimously recommended approval of C-24-08, allowing for new exterior finishes and an event center located at 25 North, 300 West, number B. And that was on to City Council with the findings and conditions as seen in the report. And I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have at this time.
Council, what do you have for Eldon?
I was just gonna say, Mayor, that I'm kind of excited for this. Event space is really needed in our area, so this is gonna be great, so.
Any additional comments, questions? I'll turn to you now for a motion on item 10C.
Mayor, I could make the motion to approve the conditional use permit C-24-08 for an exterior update and use of buildings located at Cottontown Village, 25 North, 300 West, letter B.
I have a motion by Councilman Ivy,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Casperson. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Belliston.
Aye.
Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Is approved unanimously, 4-0. Next item is workshop continuation. I don't even think we got out of the gates on this, Rick. So we'll just start now. So item 11A is Power Capital Facilities Plan. And this is a review. Power Director Rick Hansen, if you'll go ahead and review that. And then maybe before you finish up tonight, I know we've been in some pretty hot temperatures lately. If you could just give us an update on where we are, how our grid's holding up, and just give us just a brief update on power. I see at least one power board member here tonight that.
He's always here.
But we'll he's got the comfortable seat. We'll let you have the hot seat.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I can report, I've been looking at our loads. Last hour, we set a new all-time peak, so, which isn't surprising.
Within the last hour?
Yeah, hour ending 6 o'clock. So 7 o'clock, we're just about.
Tell us that you know the number.
Just under 55 megawatts. Last year, we were at 52 and a half, so about a 4.5% increase. I would suspect we may hit another peak tomorrow, since it's supposed to be a degree or two.
I've turned my thermostat up, and I've closed all of my west-facing blinds. Does that help at all?
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt, okay.
I also feel like Jeremy's doing his part. He's having it not be as cold in here, and so people are not shivering. So I feel like the city's doing their part too.
Charging his Tesla at night. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. The purpose of this presentation is just to get the council up to speed on where we're at. Periodically, every 3 to 4 years, we update our capital facilities plan for the system, just like they do on water and streets and all the other utilities. And so over the last several months, probably almost about a year, is when we engaged ICPE to start this update process. And what they do is they analyze the system with computer modeling software, put our existing loads on it, see how it does, and then we give them the best information we have on development that's coming in, load growth, and then they put that new growth onto that model, see where the system breaks, if you will, and then develop a plan to correct those issues as they come up. So I'll kind of go through this relatively fast. I know engineering studies are just exciting for you. But I think it's important that you understand it takes a lot of effort and time to, keep the lights on. So when we have extreme heat, things work as planned. And so this is labeled as draft until we kind of get through this and the impact fee process. The power boards reviewed this in their June meeting and accepted it and, recommended to move forward with it. How many of you read the 47 pages? No, I'm just kidding. So this is just talks about how they approach the study. We looked at primarily our substation and distribution system that go from there. So let me get down here to, so this is our historical loads clear back from when the city purchased the system back in 1987. So we went from 3.6 megawatts to 55 in the last hour. And that's the same data, just shown graphically. No surprise. You know, we're a fast-growing city. The load does the same thing. It is interesting on this one. They estimated the load for this year would be 54.88 megawatts, and we're within about less than 100 kilowatts of that right now. Usually you don't get it that accurate on an engineering estimate, but right now it looks really good. We're really close. So that just shows the study's doing what it's supposed to. Some years you'll be high, some years you'll be low, but that overall trend will be fine. So the purple line here is the historical, and then the blue is what the projected load is over the next 8 to almost 10 years.
What year did we take over the power company from Rocky Mountain?
87.
1987.
And so it's hard to show this on the screen, but what this is each of our substations, each of the circuits, and what their current loading is and what their projected loading is based on those, the loads that we see coming in. And then that's where I previously said they put the future loads on that existing system, and they start identifying where the yellows, oranges, and reds start popping up. And that's to help identify where things are getting loaded. Red means you're above what we typically want. And then this is the same table with the new improvements in place. You can see the reds are gone. The yellows we keep an eye on, as well as the oranges, but we could probably do some load shifting between circuits to even address those without too much effort. And again, it's probably, you'd have to blow it up in your packet, but basically all the projects we're aware of, they assign loads to each of those, and so it physically places them. It's not just a percentage increase that they do on the loads, they're physically placed by where we expect them to come in. And then kind of continuing with that as well, they not only place it physically, but what circuit would serve that and what year we'd anticipate it to come in. And again, the near-term years are going to be more accurate than, you know, years 8 to 10 years out, you'll be probably less accurate. And so from that, and in discussion with, there's areas of the system we know need maintenance and improvements. And so we identify some of those in the study that would probably need a more substantial investment in the future years. Some of those, like Cherokee Springs, the rest of Kings Row, Winter Haven, those are older parks that the system's getting towards the end of its useful life. And so we need to start considering making some replacements in those. Most of the improvements, the other improvements, you'll see some of them here, let's say by developers. That's the system within the developments that would go in order to serve that load. And then there's a cost estimate for each project that goes with that. And I can note that like this Grapevine substation, that's the one that we're actually working on right now in conjunction with the Grapevine Trailhead. The site's prepped, the wall will be up. Well, it's up now. Just won't be anything in it yet. So we've already started work on the Grapevine sub.
Where's the next one after that? Where do you anticipate?
I would anticipate after that, we have space in Staley, Parkway, Grapevine.
Staley would be a rebuild?
No, there's space in there to add a second transformer.
Okay.
So we could increase capacity at the existing site. So right now, because we are bounded by the Habitat, St. George, and the, you know, Dixie on the south, our boundaries are kind of pretty tight. So I would think our next major improvements is we'd expand or add transformers to existing substations as opposed to a new site. It's not saying depending on what happens, that couldn't happen, but right now, from what we see, I think we could serve the load with just adding transformers in those sites. So one of the things they do, they did these load flow cases, 2022, 2027, 2032 with those different loads on. We reference it, we call it an N-1 situation. So say we had a catastrophic failure in one of our substation transformers. We need to be able to serve that load from the adjacent ones. And so that's part of their study. Okay, if we lost this, can the rest of the system still support that load, even on load conditions like we have today? And so that's where some of the projects, and so they tell us basically, move the load that was served from Main Street 201 to this circuit and make sure it still works. And so that's the next section, is they kind of give guidelines of how, and demonstrates how we could back up various circuits. And they do that for the 2022, 2027, and 2032 cases. And again, that's all feeds into the projects that are needed. And then finally, we'll skip over equipment ratings. Just wanted to get you to some of the, well, there's a map here that kind of identifies those main projects physically where they are, or they're at on the system. And then finally, each project has a pretty detailed estimate for each one of those projects based in 2024 dollars. Of course, 10 years from now, it's going to be more than that. But so that's the basic study process we go through. We feel really good about where we're at, where we're going. Some of the projects, you'll see dates. They may be accelerated or decelerated depending on how fast the growth comes in. Say the exit 13, one time they talked about a hospital there. If that shows up, we might have to accelerate that sub even faster than what we're anticipating now. Those kind of things we'll have to, react as we get better information. And then one of the main things that the capital facilities plan is it serves as the foundation for our impact fee analysis that will be coming. In fact, we've already sent some information back to UFS, who's done our previous studies, and they've sent back some additional data requests that I'm working on. So I'm guessing within the next 2-3 months, we'll be bringing that impact fee analysis back to you.
Rick, certainly costs have changed over the when was the last time we updated our capital facilities master plan for power?
It was in 2020, 2021, so about 3 years.
Okay.
So like the substation, I think that happens to be up here now, that's projected about 6.2 million.
What was it projected then?
It'd probably be about half that. So I mean,
it's a big difference.
The costs are substantial.
Are there any additional projects on this facilities plan that wasn't on the plan 3 years ago?
The plan before where the Grapevine sub is, it was located closer to where the transmission line crosses the freeway. And so by moving this physically further away from that point, we're going to have to extend our transmission lines. So
But that's kind of the main other, just as far as infrastructure, there aren't many differences. Just updated costs primarily.
Costs, and like I say, the transmission lines got longer, so costs went up. And then the distribution extensions from there back in also got longer with that move. So, and when we presented we've already awarded the transformer, the circuit breaker, regulators and reclosers for the substation. They're all about a year out on delivery. So again, I just wanted to make you aware, that was the whole purpose, that this is the foundation, give you a chance to look at that. So when we come back For the impact fee, you'll kind of hit the ground running. We do have the impact fee facility plan pretty well done, and this will serve as the input, this table as the dollar amount that goes into that study that UFS will be doing for us.
So are you looking at adopting this and then coming back and doing an impact fee study, or waiting and including it all together?
I think for this body, we'll wait and just do it all at one time.
Okay.
When you send next time when you're ready to bring this back to the council, will you include the prior capital facilities power plan? The one from 2020,
Sure.
2021?
That is available on the website if you.
Just have Tara drop it in the packet, if you don't mind, with the new one.
Okay, yeah, we can obviously do that pretty easy.
So I think Rick, Power Director, is looking for feedback on this. What feedback do you have on this capital facilities plan? Obviously, this is going to, it serves as a basis for impact fees. Is there anything that you've seen in your review? And I know that Rick jokingly said you read 47 pages, but I'm actually confident you did. So what did you see there? Is there anything that you wanted to?
I thought it was pretty thorough and obviously with all the historical data and whatnot, I mean, it shows just where the trend lines go. It's not, everything looks like it's kind of right in line with what you'd anticipate, so.
Yep, and yeah, there's nothing earth-shattering different or significantly. Again, we use this as, these are the numbers I use for this year's budget and will be in the future as well. So it's a great tool to have on many fronts. And it helps us to show developers when they come in, here's our plan, you need to do this as part of this overall bigger plan. And it really helps when they see that. Why do we have to put this big line in from A to B? Well, we can show them it's a connecting piece between this point and the other point on our system. So it helps in lots of different ways.
I think that this really does show that our power department is staying ahead of the curve. This isn't one of those things that, if we were putting together a transportation master plan, we may choose to push a road back or do a signal at a different time, but we don't have that same type of flexibility when it comes to power. If we start to get into those red areas, we start to have problems. I just really appreciate Rick and his consultants that help keep us in the
I think you're saying
positive
too,
place.
These are very well defined needs.
These are absolutely needs. None of us want our power going off today, I can promise, so it's important.
Mayor, I was just gonna say that I think a lot of us take for granted when we turn the light switch on that the power's gonna come on, or if we turn the water on that it's gonna flow. And so this is just a good reminder to all of us of the hard work that the city, goes through to make sure this stuff is working for us and that we have all of these conveniences. And it's just not magic, it doesn't come through the wires magically. It takes a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of decades ahead planning to make sure it all works out. So thank you, appreciate all your hard work.
And with lead times the way they are, it adds an extra level of complexity to, between load growth and, when do you pull those different pieces, those triggers. And so I think we got a good plan, and it won't be too long, you'll see the transmission line award and stuff like that coming through, so.
Council, you have in your email, if you likely got it, the UAMPS conference, August 18th to 21st. If any of you are interested in doing the deep dive on power in Stamp Today, we're a significant member of that, so.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to come. Just let us know if you're interested. So it's in Heber, so it's pretty close, pretty easy to get to this year.
Good. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Appreciate you. We'll now move to report of officers from assigned committees. Councilman Bellison, anything to report tonight?
Summers are quiet.
Councilman Henderson?
No, Mayor, I don't have anything, thank you.
Councilman Ivy?
So I'm going to take a personal liberty tonight, Mayor, about you. I want to compliment our mayor for his foresight and his work on putting together and executing the Affordable Housing Summit that was held at Dixie Tech a couple of weeks ago now. I know Jordan was really instrumental in helping with that. But the message up there ties into what my comment will be tonight on my assignment. But the message from the Mayor Staley and the other major city mayors was that we understand the housing problem. We understand that we're going to do everything that we can, but we don't have the magic card to do everything. That we need to work together and continue to realize that there's things that are a little bit out of city's control, like interest rates and inflation and power and supply and demand, that kind of stuff, and wages. But the mayor did a great job in pulling that off and had some great comments. It caught major news across the state. And really what I think it was intended to do respectfully, and I don't want to speak for you, Mayor, but it seemed what we were trying to say respectfully is that we are doing well at what we have control over, but the state shouldn't assess any more responsibility on this than what we're able to work on by ourselves with our own abilities. So I appreciated that and attending, and the message there was that we're all committed. Let's work together. State handle what you do at the state level. Let us handle what we do here at our level. But with that, just to bring you up to date, in case you council members are asked about this, I've been meeting with Representative Walter and Elison for the last several months about an idea of utilizing Sitla property for affordable housing. And this is a monumental lift. It's big, but we've made a lot of progress in just defining some of the elements it's going to take to make that happen. It's my opinion, and I'll speak for myself, that until you can take property out of the equation, I don't know that we'll ever be able to achieve true affordability for a certain key part of our community and our population. So I'll keep you posted on that, but it's looking very rewarding. Our next stop is that we will be meeting with former Senator Waldrop, who is the housing coordinator for the state of Utah, and we'll be meeting with him in July or August, I believe. Then the last thing I'd mention that I didn't say this intentionally during announcements because I wanted to say this as part of my assignment, but on July 17th at 11:30. St. George Area Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring a luncheon where we will all be honoring our county police departments, municipal police departments, town police departments, county sheriff, Utah Tech Police Department. All those will be honored and with a nice luncheon. And then I've been asked to be the MC and have a little discussion with our very own Chief Williams, with Chief Axel, Chief Whitehead, and I know there's one more.
Sheriff Brooksby?
Not Brooksby. Who is it? Yes, thank you. Anyway, we just wanted to ask questions and give the chiefs just an opportunity to be able to just share what's going on and to share some information that they feel is important. And also to be able to say thank you. We know that they're not comfortable with that a lot of times, but they endure the public's patience in allowing us to thank them for what they do. So anyway, that is on July 17th. It's 11:30. It'll be at the Hilton Garden Inn. I'd like to invite anybody that would like to come to that, but it should be a very nice luncheon where we have a chance to give back a little bit to our police and give them the floor to be able to say some things to the community that they'd like to say. And that's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for your efforts on housing and in the community. Tara, will you be sure to put that on the council calendar for the 17th and help anyone who'd like to go get registered for that?
Yes.
Councilwoman Casperson. I do have one item I'd like to bring you up to speed on. So we've been working through the process of replacing our Justice Court judge. We followed the state statute. We are to the point now where we have 4 finalists, 4 candidates, and it will be my duty to bring forward a name for the council to ratify. We've got some excellent candidates there. I'm going to just take some time with each of those candidates over the next week or so. And by statute, I have 30 days from, I believe, July 8th to bring that to you. So it's likely we will need to call a special meeting to appoint a new justice court judge. I'll try to coordinate with you. I don't at this point anticipate any other items being needed to bring forward, so I'm fine if that is even, a meeting that you attend electronically if you have some scheduling conflicts. But I'll coordinate with Tara and we'll try to figure out a time, and I'll keep you posted before the meeting on some of my thoughts. And if you'd like to, any other information, I'm happy to have that conversation outside of this meeting. But I just wanted to keep you in the loop on where we are with the process. It's worked well. We've had a good committee, and we've vetted some excellent candidates. 4 of those names have risen to the top and been recommended by that committee. And so now it's my duty and privilege to select one of them and bring that name to you for the ratifying vote. That's all I have. Next item is city manager report. Jeremy?
I don't have anything to add tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
We do not have need for a closed session. So the final action tonight is a motion and vote on adjournment.
So made.
Motion by Councilman Belliston.
Second.
Second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.